Oofta. Well, how's it going, everybody? Apologize for the super loud music. I gotta mute that too because I'm being the big dumb again. All right, give me a second here. Let me get that swapped over. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. It wasn't that loud. Well, by the time you got in, it was probably a little bit more quiet. But yeah, welcome to the State of the Forum stream. We got some stuff to talk about, yo. We got some things we're gonna chat about. Give me a second here. Why did chat disappear on me? Just give me straight chat. You know, I'm just gonna put chat on my phone because otherwise I'm gonna be annoyed. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about some stuff today. We're gonna talk about State of the Forum. Things with in terms of development. I'm gonna have Nixnax step in here in a little bit, and he's gonna talk about some of the stuff that's about to be done, some of the stuff he's got coming up, and a few other things. And then we're gonna talk about us and the mods are gonna talk about our views on what the forum is and how things are going there, and then we're gonna step into some other subjects, and we'll get to that bridge when we get there. Just to preface things, guys, I do have memory issues. I suffered a really bad concussion in December of 2020. I will just lose complete sense of everything I was talking about. And sometimes it takes me a minute to recollect myself and figure out what I was talking about. So if that happens, I apologize. Just bear with me. Brain stuff hurts sometimes. But in any event, I'm going to go ahead, guys, and we're going to pass it off to Nixnax here. Let me get myself unmuted in Discord real quick. Alrighty, Nixnax, you ready?
I am ready.
All right, give me 1 second. Let me adjust the volume for you there. Let me make sure Discord is good. That's good. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and drag you right on in, and I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself and disappear.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the State of the Forums. Today's date is February 19th, 2022, and I hope everyone is having a beautiful day. So I wanted to talk about a few things today, mostly concerning development. And so let me just share my screen real quick. And I have a nice slide deck presented for you all. So, all right. So this is going to be, like I said, primarily a development focused.
Hold on just a second, Nixnax. I gotta get your volume up. Do a quick test.
Test.
How's that, guys?
Hello.
Okay. That should be good.
All right. So, knockout development update. First thing we're going to look at is the statistics for the past since December and January. And so I know I haven't been keeping up quite as well as I should have with the monthly forum updates. I actually ran into an issue crunching some of these numbers, and you can see if you look closely that total active users are not included on this chart. And the reason that is
hold on a sec, Nixnax. It's the slides aren't showing up. Give me a second. That might be just a.
Oh, I'm sharing my screen. You might have to focus it to the screen part.
Give me a second here. I'm inept, so I apologize.
That's okay.
Let me. There we go.
All right, perfect. So I hope everyone can see this, but the first thing I wanted to show is some statistics for the past few months. And so these charts represent posts, bans, reports, and new users per month. We've been seeing pretty nominal activity from most of these. The variation in terms of posts per month and new users per month. Obviously we're trying to get more new users per month, but we're still staying at a pretty consistent around 100, low 100 new users per month, which I think is still something to celebrate, given the size and history of our forum, right? So something you may notice is that this graph does not include total active users, and that is because when I was crunching these numbers, uh, in order to calculate the amount of active users, we query our table we store IP addresses in. So we know when a user logs in, etc., and we use that metric to calculate when a user is active in a given month. So that table has actually gotten so big that the query that I use to calculate active users a month is now taking too long to run. It was over 10 minutes before I had to stop it because it was slowing the database down. And so those stats are TBA until I write a better query to get that data. And so with that said, well, just as a side on, I will give that data once that query runs, and I'll make a thread dedicated to that. But going ahead, so I'm going to talk about a few major sort of development goals on our roadmap for the next month or two. The first of those is a rewrite of the permission system in our backend. And so this is essentially a way of making our previous role system, which was a set of user groups based on just numbers. For example, a regular user would be user group 3. And that was about as complex as our permission system was. And so for the past 6 months or so, we've been retooling almost all of the endpoints and data models in Knockout to respect a more extensible permission system that basically gives a set of permissions per a user role. It's just a role-based permission system. It's nothing too fancy, but it does enable us to do some pretty cool stuff, like the very commonly suggested refugee camp, or now known as the whack-ass crystal prison. So this has been delayed a little bit longer than I wanted it to be. Thank you to everyone for being patient with us as we work on that. Um, but we prefer things to ship with as little bugs as possible. So it's a lot of code to get out, and we've been reviewing it, and hopefully it should be going out within the next week or two. So, like I said, the permission system enables us to do things like the refugee camp. We're about to be testing this on a moderator subforum that only moderators have access to, and it allows us to do pretty cool things like support custom subforums as well, which if you've been on Facepunch or the Knockout or Facepunch community for a while, you know that that was a thing early on. And so we want to sort of bring some sort of that back in the form of custom subforums, which will be enabled by this new permission system. Going ahead, we have a pretty new idea that I've been stewing around for the past month or two, and it's essentially a way to manage community events across the site while ensuring that events don't get buried in threads in subforms that people don't pay attention to, make sure they're visible, make sure we can notify on calendar events, and make sure users are aware of sort of what's happening on the site in general. And so an idea that we've been talking about is a community calendar for Knockout that lets users track what events are happening across the Knockout community. And so, for example, those with permission, either a moderator, an upcoming gold member, or even a community contributor, can create and schedule community events such as those you've seen with the Unreal tournaments, with Project Zomboid, with Ice Cold's recently coming back Knockout Jackbox. Um, those are some examples of events that I think would benefit a great deal from being on a shared calendar system that users can choose to be reminded of these events, and events can even have details embedded with them, such as Twitch links, Discord links, KO thread links, and we can even extend the system such that popular calendar events can show up on the homepage of Knockout itself to promote activity. And like I said, this is still pretty early stages, but it kind of goes into some open source discussion that I'll discuss later. So something else I wanted to discuss, and something that we've been working on, is our new gold member and site donation system. And so gold member is a system that used to exist in Knockout and used to be coupled with Patreon. However, since we are now no longer associated with Patreon and we haven't been offering that Patreon option for a long time now, um, it's time to, we think enough users have requested that, they would like some way to give back to the site in some form. And so the initial building blocks of that have essentially been a much more simplistic system than trying to couple with Patreon. We now have our own Stripe account that we'll be using directly within Knockout, so you won't ever need to leave Knockout to, for example, subscribe to Gold Member or make a donation. You can just do it all through Stripe, and it makes it really easy. And so I've been working on that Stripe integration for the past 2 weeks, and it's coming along pretty well. Um, and so obviously, our gold member subscription cost shouldn't be more than $5 USD, but the price is still to be determined, and we'll let you guys know when something is hammered out. And we also wanted, like I said, to offer a one-time donation option because for some users, a subscription option is much less convenient than just donating one time and forgetting about it. And we also want to reward that in some way. So a possible reward for a one-time donation would be gold for a month, or gold based on the amount, right? Pay to win knockout. So additional gold features and features for donations are still in the works. We want users to feel to feel like that their contribution has some weight to it. And so yes, example, pay for moderation. But so watch out for some threads and discussions based around the new gold member permissions as we roll them out. So
Uncle Jemima, Yahoo's my PayPal. Just saying.
do it, PayPal him. So something the moderator team and the community team as a whole, and most of the knockout user base has probably gathered that we try our best uh, to make a comfortable experience for users. Not necessarily a safe space per se, but we like when users want to use our site, and you won't we'll go on a website where your identity is being flamed, or it's just we want to give users a comfortable user experience on the site. It should be pleasant, right? You know, um, we shouldn't like if a user wants to hide a post or a subforum or something they don't care about, they should have the power to do so. And so, from our standpoint, this is where building our own forum system from the ground up really comes as a positive really comes as a positive for us because we can have a content filtering system that's extensible and granular enough so that users will be able to hide subforums they want, threads they don't want to see, posts they don't want to see, and on the side of the users making this content, if they wish, they can add a content warning to posts, automatically hiding the posts. Obviously, not every user is going to be aware of this, and they sometimes might not add a content filter, when it should be turned on. In which case, either a moderator could, add a content warning filter to it, or the user can just hide the post, right? And so there's a good bit of discussion around this, around how users will interact with this system. Obviously, so there haven't been any final decisions made on how exactly this is going to look, but the core idea is that we want to give users a little bit more control over the content they want to see on Knockout. And so that's the core principle driving this, and we hope to have some more discussion around how exactly the system is going to work when development starts on it. Other than that, we have a few miscellaneous quality of life features that I'd like to get out within the next month or two. For example, notifying users when action has been taken on their reports, storing user settings and their user style and theme in the back end so they're consistent between devices and between logins on different devices, right? A user name change and a user alias system is something that users have requested, and in fact in certain scenarios we have changed users names, but I think a more natural in Knockout experience for changing usernames and also viewing users' previous names. I think would be something that people would appreciate. And lastly, for some third-party clients of Knockout, the OAuth login experience hasn't been great. So, for example, the Nucky mobile app, you have to do some hacky workaround to log in, and we can do better than that. So I'd like to make it a little bit easier for third-party clients to log in. So I'm gonna do a little bit more digging into that and see how we can get that work better. I think one of the most common issues users have is user data sync issue or not being able to log in or something is wrong with the way they logged in. So I plan on just solidifying that and making it more reliable for third-party clients. And finally, I wanted to talk about our open source issue tracking and our open source roadmap. So in the past 6 or 7 months, Knockout, I wouldn't say has been sort of open source in terms of the PR list has been private due to some trolls just spamming it essentially, and we just made it private for the time being. But also, it's because anyone who wanted to volunteer on Knockout had almost no direction. Um, there were issues here and there and small bugs, um, but in terms of what should I work on, what's the priority, what can I work on, how can I work on it, what needs to be done, there was very little direction. And so for for a team and a project of our size, that would stifle anyone wanting to come on, because right now there's two maintainers who essentially make the large architectural decisions and then develop on them. And so the reason it's been sort of hard for us to say, hey, everyone, come on and start coding, it's because if we had 20 people making different architectural decisions to solve the same problem, that would be nice because we had the contribution, but we would essentially have too many cooks in the kitchen who would all be working on maybe the same thing in different ways. And that's not their fault, right? That's not their fault at all. That they that's they just had no direction. And so what I want to try to work on in the next few months is have a more concrete process around, as developers, as maintainers of Knockout, how can we do better at giving developers more direction? And, as developers, where can you guys go to get the resources you need? And so a pretty good, and so a general overview of what that would look like from a concrete perspective is that large architectural decisions and large feature decisions, and how they would look like um, from a database perspective, or what the endpoints would look like, those decisions would primarily be made by maintainers, because we would have the most knowledge out of anyone to make the most informed decisions on how should this database schema look. How should the request and response models look for these endpoints. However, that doesn't mean we have to be in charge of the whole process. We could make those large architectural decisions saying, this is how the database schema should look, this is how the page should be designed, this is how the API should react to errors, and we can give those out as individual tasks that have enough descriptive information for any developer to start working, or at least, start working, or at least know where to start, right? Which is the same. That was redundant, but and when they work on that, hopefully they would have enough information within that small ticket that they can say, hey, I have coded this to the specifications in the ticket. What do you guys think? Um, and that workflow is much easier to manage because you're dealing with much more atomic and smaller units of work that are easier to work on and easier to subdivide and easier to maintain, and easier to review and merge by us. And ideally, we'd also have a knockout thread to track large progress of issues too on a more granular level. And so this is a bit of a compromise between just giving out a full roadmap and just telling people to work on bugs, right? This I think is a healthy open source balance that when I'm able to act and execute on this, that I think we'll see a lot of benefits from the community, hopefully. And so, uh, with that said, that is me. You can go back to my camera if you want, or you can keep it here. But I just wanted to say before I hand it off to Jim, think there's around 60 people watching this. That is freaking crazy. That's so awesome. It's not a big number at all, but I've been part of this community since 2007, and the fact that we're able to provide this space to communicate and to talk, and for people to sometimes they go to this site every single day for 5, 6, 7 years. We are a very special place for a lot of people. And for a lot of and the soul of this community lies in a lot of the historical individual experiences that and connections people have made with just the website over the years. And the fact that I'm able to work on develop on that and give you guys that um is just mind blowing to me. And I'm so thankful for the moderators to let me have permissions to develop in the first place. And ice cold, but also you guys for just being here and being a community. I was talking to my real life friend earlier, and I was telling him about some work I was doing for Knockout, and he's like, you know, not a lot of people can say they're like giving a community that they're working on a forum for a community they're part of. Like, not a lot of people can say that. And I was like, you're right. This is something to be really, really thankful of. So I'm really appreciative of you guys. So thank you for coming to this, and I'll pass it off to Jim.
Just whooshed myself into existence there. Okay, so gosh, with him talking about that, it's like I joined this community back in 2005, 17 years. It hurts my brain to think that I've been a part of this community for that long, but it's really cool. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be here if I didn't want to be. But yeah, thank you, Nixnax. I do appreciate that. That is very informative. Lots of good information there. So this next part, we're just going to kind of talk about our own opinions on what we feel about the state of the forum and how things are going. And I guess I'll kick it off, and then if Nixnax, Tetra, or Zilla, you want to add some stuff, by all means. Overall, it seems like things are going pretty decent. Pretty decent. There are some issues that I'll be addressing here in a little while, but overall, I think things are kind of going in the right direction. We haven't had any like massive drama events. We haven't had any significant disruptions coming from outside the forums, and we've been making a lot of really good headway on the website. And I think we're kind of hitting a I don't want to say a crossroads, but we're hitting a point. We're hitting a point where we finally have this forum that has some good functionality, has a lot of good tools, has more good stuff in the works. We are getting new users in on a fairly consistent basis, and we as the mod team are finally starting to be able to kind of focus on helping this grow, as opposed to dealing with a significant amount of internal issues. And a part of that, at least as of recent months, I think has to deal a little bit in terms of our change in moderation, and I'll touch on that in a bit, among other things. I mean, I've seen just being a moderator and watching things from a big perspective. It's you can see things change. You can watch things change. You can see how the community as a whole reacts to certain things, and how that progresses as the times change, and it's all been going in the right direction. I think we've definitely made a lot of headway in terms of communication and understanding each other, and not necessarily just going at each other's throats all the time, but there's still definitely work to be done in a lot of respects, on multiple fronts. And obviously none of this stuff's going to iron itself out overnight, but especially as the community manager, as a moderator, if looking back at like a year and a half ago, there were plenty of days where I was really ripping my hair out, where I haven't really had one of those days in quite a long time, which is good. That is very, very good. But yeah, I mean, Zilla, Nixnax, you got anything to add to that?
You guys have been awesome.
Woo!
Yeah.
Oh, I got your volume low. You should be able to. Should be good to talk.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, personally, I would say that, like, in regards to, I gotta be the stream now. I didn't want to hear double me. I would say in regards to current moderation, and as Nixnax had brought up earlier, with like helping users when we respond to reports, I do think that I do think that's something we should focus on as a team and as a community, is communication with one another when it comes to any issues we may have. I gotta adjust volumes here.
Yeah. Well, and as far as we'll go on into the next section here. So, the first pocket I'm going to talk about is moderation policy, and how we've been approaching moderation. So to add some context to this, obviously I'm no stranger to drama, to putting my own foot in my mouth, and some of you may remembered a lot of the conversations that were going on in Meta a little over a year and a half ago. Maybe not that far out. I think the latest thread was like 8 months ago, and it caused a lot of drama, and it caused us a lot of stress, and some people had to step away and take a breather for a bit, and I mean, that's just how this stuff goes. Don't worry, Zilla, it's all good. And during that time, I had a lot of personal stuff going on, and I'm sitting there going to myself, we can't just keep doing the same shit we've been doing and expect a different result. If we keep treating this like Facepunch, then it's just not going to work. And that's not to say we have. I mean, I would like to think that we try to make a concise effort to not necessarily just be a continuation of Facepunch in terms of how we handle things and stuff like that. But like I said, I've been around for 17 years. Sometimes it's hard to break old habits. And that was kind of an epiphany moment for me, where I'm going, well, why don't we're all adults, right? The median age on the forum is like 27, 28. Most of us are millennials. We do have some younger folks. We do have some older. But long story short, we're not a bunch of teenagers playing Gary's Mod and Rust anymore. We're all adults. And so we should be treating each other like adults. And so in terms of policy, one of the things I've instructed the moderators to do is there's two metrics that we want to base any sort of punitive measure on. And the first is bad actors, and the second is disruption. Obviously, bad actors go without saying. We want to ban those guys. They're just going to get banned. People that are intentionally coming in to stir the pot or drop a grenade and walk away. They're just here to fuck with people, and they're going to get banned. But the second metric is disruption, as in how much problems does it cause. And so part of this whole shift in metric, like or shift in policy, like Zilla was saying, was communication. You know, there used to be the whole bans or warnings thing, right? Bans or warnings. You know, I'm sure there are going to be people that disagree with my opinion on this, but I think a lot of us have kind of outgrown that. Once again, we're adults. You know, it's basically the equivalent of getting put on timeout, which is silly. But once again, too, if it's deserving, like, yeah, you're going to get that. And so, you know, oftentimes some of you might have seen, I step into a thread and I say, hey, let's not do this anymore. Hey, let's change the tone. Let's try to take this in a different direction. You know, one of the things that myself and a lot of the moderation team has been doing has been DMing users and talking to them about posts that you know, maybe aren't necessarily rule breaking in and of themselves, but they're causing disruption. Or maybe they are kind of breaking the rules a little bit, but they're not really causing disruption. And this kind of goes back to the whole user feedback thing, right? So when it comes to like reports and stuff right now, like Nixnax was saying, we definitely want to try to have some sort of system where it offers feedback when we are dealing with a report itself. We don't have that on the moderator side right now. That's stuff they're working on. So what we've been doing in lieu is, you know, if people make a report and it's something that we determine is not bannable, we'll DM them and explain why. We don't do that for every report. I hate to say it, guys. There's definitely garbage reports. But when there's definitely stuff where it's like, okay, I can understand why this person might think that, but it really isn't, you know, then we'll make the effort to explain why. And going back to the whole disruption part of it, I don't necessarily want to say disruption in the sense that somebody says an opinion against the grain. You know, it's no secret that, you know, politically the forum leans in a certain direction. It's no secret that when it comes to certain topics, a lot of people feel very strongly about certain things. And we're fully cognizant that in some instances people believe that some folks are trolling. And, you know, sometimes they definitely are. But at the same time, there are definitely topics where, you know, okay, is this really that controversial? Is this really that big of a deal? Is this really that large of an issue? I don't want to be banning people for certain stuff like that. And I know I'm talking in very broad, general senses here. You know, I don't want to be naming specifics. There's a lot of things that I see on the forum. There's a lot of stuff that I see on there and could cite, but I'm not going to just for the privacy of people, and I don't want anybody getting badgered or hounded or anything like that. But I think most of you have a rough idea of kind of what I'm talking about in terms of how people react, and that'll go. I'm kind of almost shifting into the next topic of discussion a little too soon here, but overall, going back to the policy in terms of moderation, I would rather try to communicate like adults to people than just start handing out bans. And as I said, with bad actors, yeah, they're going to get banned. With folks that aren't bad actors, you know, we're going to try to have some conversation with you. We're going to try and be like adults and mitigate stuff, because ultimately our job as moderators is to maintain good order on the forum. That's it. It's to make sure that things are running smoothly. You know, obviously there's times where stuff comes up, and is it bannable? Yeah, it could be. But does it cause a whole lot of problems? Well, not really. You know, somebody built themselves a box for it. I think that's punishment enough. Like, it's just kind of, I don't want to say loosey-goosey, but obviously we're taking this from a very subjective approach. And I know that's going to cause, you know, some people to disagree with how we're approaching it. And I know that it could potentially cause issues in terms of consistency and stuff like that. But going back to what I said at the beginning of this section, it's like, we can't just keep doing the same thing and expect things to change. You know, we need to try something else. We need to try taking things in a different direction. And as I said, overall, in the last couple of months, I think it's been highly successful. I don't know if you remember seeing the stats on when Nixnax started his portion, but the bans were kind of relatively going down a little bit. And that's just it. Like that in terms of like genuine bad actors, the development team has done a phenomenal job at putting tools together on the back end. That's really stopped a lot of the straight up stuff. I mean, there's still folks that make things here and there, and that's where our job really comes into play. But we have, like I said, this is probably the best state in terms of like not being all drama-y, inflamed that the forum's been in a very long time, and I'd like to continue to try to improve upon that as much as I can. So with that said, and going into this next section here, I'm going to preface everything I talk about here, going back to what Nixnax talked about at the end of his bit in terms of the filter system. So you might have heard him say that Knockout isn't necessarily a safe space. I will get into that portion of it in a minute here, but really we want to give users the tools to tailor their own experience because, quite frankly, we all perceive the world differently. We all have different experience. We all see and perceive stuff a little bit different. And in the case of an online forum, you're now trying to base intent off of lines of text. And if you're trying to judge intent based off of lines of text, you are going to make assumptions based off your own life experience. So with that in mind, with that filter system and all of that stuff, the last couple of weeks I've spent a lot of time talking to individual users throughout the community in detail. I mean, I sat down with some people for as long as 5 hours and just talked about what they perceived on the forum, how they saw things, their perspectives on things, how they feel that things could be improved, and how things like forum disruption can be lessened. And it gave me a lot of very insightful information. I mean, it really proved that we have a very diverse demographic here, in terms of opinions, in terms of perceptions, in terms of what they believe should be done, what this should be done. But there was also a lot of common themes involved, and that's where this kind of whole filter system idea kind of came into place. Going to that whole safe space thing, there are definitely members that genuinely believe that this forum should be a safe space where they're not exposed to that kind of stuff. But on the flip side, you have individuals that may post content that they have no idea could be deemed offensive. And, obviously, I think a lot of us we've been through the ringer once or twice. We've been kicked on the grind by life. We've all seen shit. We've all dealt with bad things. To delve into a little bit about myself, I served in the Marine Corps. I was a Huey crew chief, and I saw people die. And I didn't play video games for like 3 years after getting out of the military. And seeing like even just battlefield clips of somebody shooting an RPG at a rocket or at a helicopter, that made me genuinely upset. I understood that was never the intent, but it's an emotional reaction that's unavoidable when you suffer from PTSD and stuff like that. So there are definitely people that have those sort of issues that can cause distress. And I know that sounds kind of silly prima facie, but the thing is, most of us have been here for a very long time. I think we all have a degree of emotional attachment to the forum, to the community. As I said, going back to some of the drama that happened over a year ago, that was very emotionally distressing for myself and members of the mod team. I don't think anybody likes getting dogpiled, and I'm not saying that any of it wasn't warranted, but it still can be very frustrating. And I mean, there are comments that have people made on me that were hurtful, and it's like, if you know what I've had to do on the backside of things, your opinion might be a little bit different. And this all kind of boils back to that whole communication thing and perception. Like I said, there are definitely times where stuff gets posted where it's like, okay, fuck that. Like bigoted content, stuff like that. Of course, no, we're not going to allow that. But there's content that maybe isn't necessarily prima facie. You know, maybe somebody's posting a clip from a particular YouTube celebrity, or music from a particular artist, or just a sensitive topic in general where the conversation is constructive but does contain sensitive information. And, a lot of times conversations like that can immediately devolve, depending on the tone of how people approach things. And so the $1 million question is, how can we as the moderator team help lessen those instances and kind of help cut down on the disruption? Because once again, it's not like this stuff that happens is necessarily bannable, but it does kind of present a questionable approach as to far as how the community can react to stuff. So as I said, I sat down with a lot of people in the community. I did talk to a lot of people outside of the community. I showed the forum and stuff to some people outside, and personal friends, coworkers, people I know through other channels and stuff like that. And there were definitely things I saw that people, they were just like, that's batshit. I think the politics section is probably one where we all can kind of go like, oh man. And I mean, I'll say, take what you will from Hezzy. He definitively said that creating the politics subforum was his worst mistake in terms of the forum. But at the same time, I think it's kind of become a necessary evil, especially with all the things that are going on in the world. I mean, shit, we're looking at Ukraine just going to hell in a handbasket here real soon, and that's a big thing everybody wants to talk about. But at the same time, there are definitely things where it's like, man, we really shouldn't be approaching things this way, because like I said, we're most of the people in this community, we've all been together for a long time, and I kind of view the community like an extended family. You're going to have cousins that you butt heads with. You're going to have cousins that you just jive with. You're going to have aunts and uncles that, just make you want to rip your head out. But at the end of the day, we're all still family. And that's just it. We all came from the same tree. And so, like I said, this forum has a general political leaning. This forum has a general social leaning. And the thing is, there are people who maybe aren't as entrenched in their beliefs. I mean, it's no hidden secret that I'm a big Second Amendment guy. And, recently I just apologized to a user because of how I approached a conversation. I was being hostile. I was being outright hostile. And like I said, I apologized because in retrospect, I'm going, shit, this is what I'm trying to prevent. This is what I'm trying to lessen. Because all that kind of discussion does is bring toxicity to the conversation. And like I said, for outsiders looking in, man, it can look bad. And to that end, like I said, the filter system is kind of one piece of the puzzle. That's kind of like a, quantifiable, measurable thing that we can do to offer users the ability to filter the content themselves. That way, so my initial idea was to have a keywords list. You could put in particular keywords and stuff like that, and that would, depending on what filter setting you set it at, it would maybe just spoiler the word, or spoiler the whole post, or spoiler all images in the post, or spoiler the thread and put a warning. Each one of them would put a little warning saying, sensitive content warning or something like that. And that way users can define what they deem to be sensitive content. Because like I said, there's definitely stuff where I can understand how some members of the community are upset by it. And I can also understand how other users would not see a problem with it. And I know that's a really broad term, and I'm sure people are automatically defaulting to the worst possible examples of that. But it's once again, it's a way to tailor things a little bit better to help kind of mitigate some of the disruption that gets caused by that sort of content. And it also offers some breathing room, right? So, there was an example that some people have brought up about an image containing certain bigoted content. And I mean, in terms of the post, the content itself was being used to talk in a constructive manner, but the issue is the fact that it had to be seen, and they described it being analogous to gore, right? If you hop into, we'll say like the Swedish lifeboat, right, and you're sitting here thinking, you know, jag måste äta, det är mycket bra, and then you see like some guy's face peeled off and like shit, like we all can agree, I think pretty much everybody on a base level can go like, we don't want to see that. And I clicked on this thread and I walked in here and what the fuck, this is gross, why is this here? Like it sucks. Like, you're not angry at it because you know it exists, you know gore exists. We all grew up in the mid 2000s, you know, we've all seen all this shit on 4chan, but you don't want to see it. And to a lesser extent, I mean, I shouldn't say that, but there's other content like that, going back to me like seeing, you know, bodies flying out of helicopters, man. That for a long time for me was really difficult to watch, and I would hop into LMAO pics and see something like that. And once again, the person posting that, they would have no idea. And of course, I'm not going to bitch about it because they would have never known. But this would have at least given me the option to have something to where I don't just have to see it without consciously having to click on the spoiler, click on the thing that says, yes, I want to view it. You know what I mean? It adds that extra layer to allow, you know, that sort of issue to become less of a problem. The other aspect of it, this is the kind of, we're never going to fully attain this. It's physically impossible. But guess what? I'm a cup half full kind of guy. I think it's worth an effort, and that's to once again try to help improve communication. And there is one user I'm going to name drop. I would like to thank them personally because what they did really kind of helped me get on this path in terms of changing up how we handle policy and how we approach things, and that's Emperor Sagan. You know, I don't remember which thread it was, but I was accusing him of having a bad faith argument, and once again, I was trying to define intent off of lines of text from an individual I've never met before or ever seen before or don't even know the name of. And I thought they were genuinely giving me a bad faith argument. And they stopped and went, hey, let's handle this in a more constructive manner. And they DM'd me. And that was huge. That was like a paradigm shift for me in terms of this sort of thing. It's like, dude, that's genius. Because you're right. If I just continued to let this fester, I would have, you know, probably written this off as a bad faith argument and yada yada yada. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this as a live stream versus just having a line of text. You know, like I said, going back to perception, I think we all look at the forum and you know, if you look at my username, I'm sure there's thoughts, preconceived notions of who I am, you know. I know a lot of you have had the benefit of seeing me before and hearing my voice before. You know, if you were at the Farewell Facepunch stream, you got to see a genuine human penis with me. It was a good time.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
I missed out.
But I mean, there's definitely times where you go, oh, it's side user. Oh, they're doing this again. Oh, they're doing that again. And it's like, yeah, man, I'm making assumptions off of lines of text that I've read from people for years and years and years. And it's one of those things where once I actually got to sit down and talk with them in a manner like this, maybe not in a video chat, but definitely in a voice chat, I definitely had a better appreciation for who they were. I mean, I know there's definitely users where, like, the very first time I had an interaction with them on the forum or about forum-related shit, I'm like, fuck you. Fuck that. I don't want to deal with that. You know? And then I actually got a chance to sit down and talk with them, and now, you know, we talk on the regular. Like, it's that communication aspect. It's that perception aspect. It's how do we, you know, kind of cross that bridge between the stuff? Because obviously, you know, voice chat on a forum is not a very conducive. It just doesn't work. And there's only so much you can do in the sense of written text. But once again, I think if we can up our communication on a lot of this stuff, it would go leaps and bounds in terms of helping each other better understand each other, helping lessen disruption, the mud flinging, the toxicity, all of that good stuff. And the thing is, the forum has done it itself in a lot of instances. And I'm not going to name names, but there was a user that really liked a particular game, and there was a lot of people that were giving him shit for it. And members of the community were like, "Hey, guys, this guy just likes this game a lot. Why are we badgering him for liking this game? Who cares if it's a whatever game? The guy likes the game, and there's people here that want to talk to him about it too. So we should, don't. Why are we bad talking him? And to have that happen naturally is amazing. It really is. To have a bunch of people that, for all intents and purposes, do not know one another, come together and kind of mutually decide, hey, we should change our behavior. I mean, boy, shit. I'm a sociologist by trade, and God, if I was still continuing my education, this would make for an incredible sociological study. It's just great, and I still see it happening in other instances too. But the thing is, we are getting a lot of events where there's a lot of dogpiling going on, and God, how do I? I'm trying to articulate this without bringing up specific examples. There's definitely times where people, it's the exact opposite, where the hive mind kicks in and somebody gets dogpiled for sharing an opinion. And once again, I think a lot of it does boil down to communication. There are definitely times where people phrase things poorly. I will be the first to admit I've done that before. And once again too, that's why I wanted to do this over a live stream. And so, phrasing things poorly doesn't do any favors, but at the same time, I think that far too often folks are willing to go at each other's throats, are willing to just completely tactfully shit on somebody, for lack of a better term, and I'm guilty of it too. Don't get me wrong, I'm guilty of it too. I think we all are to some extent, but it's that kind of thought process, it's that kind of behavior that it can make for really just toxic appearing conversation. And once again, that's what it boils down to, is perception. It's when we look at something and we make an assumption of what it means. And a lot of times I think, well, once again, we all grew up on the internet. We all know what it's like to have a troll. Most of us remember TUD and all the shit that goes on like that. And so, the whole there's no girls on the internet, that old thing, which is definitely not the case, but we all have this baseline, like, oh, this guy posted opinion contrary to mine, they must be trolling. Oh, this guy is using a maybe not the best argument, they're a bad faith actor. Oh, they're talking about this particular YouTube person, they must be somebody looking to stir the pot. And don't get me wrong, it does happen. There are people that make an altar or make an account and plop a steamer to rile up the community. But the thing is too, is that wouldn't work if the community would take a step back and go, yeah, let's just not deal with it. Let's just not interact with it. If it's something that isn't genuinely disturbing or destructive or bigoted or whatever, it's why are we fucking with it? And that's just it. It's one thing I learned being a moderator is you got to take a step back. You need to be able to step away from a conversation and take a breather, Markiplier. And I'm sorry I haven't been reading chat. We'll get to a part where we'll have a little Q&A, and you guys can fire away, and I'll actively read chat and stuff like that. But fuck. Sorry guys, my brain. Tetra or Zilla, what was I talking about?
Sorry, I had to step away for a second.
That's all good.
You were talking.
Oh, yeah. My moderation and what I've learned. Okay, the stepping away. As a moderator and as a community manager, I've learned to step away from conversations. Not so much banning stuff, but if I can tell that this is just going to turn into circles, I step away from it. And I think, personally, all the times I've caused dramas because I've allowed myself to get caught up in the conversation, because I've allowed myself to allow my emotions associated with my perceptions of what's going on to kind of influence what it is I'm posting. And, I really try to make a conscious effort to not let that happen anymore. And obviously, like I said, we're all emotionally invested into this to some degree, and it's pretty much unavoidable for an emotional aspect of that sort of thing to be involved with. But, just in general, I remember there was a thread, and once again, I'm not going to name names or name a thread, but, it was a pretty long thread, and I made some posts in it, and I saw that there was like 4 or 5 users that were having an argument, and I just went, you know what, I'm not going to continue. It's not worth it because they're just talking circles. And like 5-6 hours later, they all started reporting one another. They're trolling or bad faith argument, whatever. They're all reporting each other, and it's like, guys, nobody forced you to keep having a conversation with one another. If you couldn't tell at this point, none of you are going to change your opinion. Just step away. Most of us have already left the conversation because we most of us could see what was going on. And the only reason it's devolved for the 5 of you is because you guys kept continuing to engage in one another in a pointless conversation at that point. The report wars. You'll be surprised how often that happens. It's kind of funny. Personally,
nothing's more fun than like getting home from work or lunch and checking the website and seeing like 60 reports, and it's the same like 3 users going after each other. It's just like, good Christ.
Yeah. I mean that stuff happens a lot, and it's just like, guys, just take a step back, take a breather. It's this whole perception thing. And like I said, that's the more difficult, hard, like how do we even begin to approach that sort of thing. But like I said, in terms of our moderation policy and starting to DM users more and talk to users more and like warn users more, I think we can kind of help guide that stuff a little bit better. Obviously there's a lot of work to be done in that department, in my opinion. But it's definitely something that I can say has been improving. It's not perfect, and it never will be, but it's been getting better. Like I said, the forum on more than one occasion has come to the conclusion itself to improve itself in that regard. But I think we all should, everybody watching, if you find yourself getting caught in a situation like that, maybe step away, maybe DM that user, maybe try to change the pace of the dialogue. But yeah, I mean, it's improving conversation, making things, helping people better understand one another. Because like I said, I want this community to grow. What I really want is to capture the magic I felt when I first joined Facepunch as a 13-year-old kid. And I don't know how to capture that. It's not like we have a game or a mod or something like that to do it. But I just remember, my friend told me about Gary's mod. I thought it was awesome. I went onto the Facepunch forums. I was seeing all these cool skins and models and seeing Davor making shit, and I'm like, this is freaking cool. And I mean, shit. Like I said, I've been here 17 years. The magic got me, man, and I want to try to find that magic again. But it's especially with now, obviously things are socially very, very different than they were 17 years ago. And even for the younger generation right now, the Zoomers and shit, it's like I'm starting to feel like a 30-year-old boomer. And the question is going to be like, how do we appeal to that? How do we bring in that next generation and bring in more people? And obviously there's a bunch of spitball ideas and, things that we can do, game jams and stuff like that. But part of that too is helping the community understand one another better, is once again mitigating disruption before it has a chance to really take hold. Preventing situations that cause threads to devolve and brings trolls out of the woodwork to try and continue stirring the pot and shit like that. That's really our big goal as moderators here, is just let's treat each other like adults. Let's talk to each other like adults. Let's improve our communication so we can better understand one another. And I think, like I said, I think we've definitely made strides in that. There's definitely work that still needs to be done. But if there's any take from all of this, like I said, I highly implore you all to take some time to step back every once in a while. Give yourself a bit of time to clear your head, especially when we're talking on sensitive subjects, because I know, especially for particular subjects, it can be a very emotional topic to be discussing. And usually it's when we're emotionally compromised that we start to make disruptive decisions. But that's all I got for you guys. I'm actually surprised we only kept this to an hour, which, hey, quicker viewing, I suppose. So I guess, I don't know, if anybody in the voice chat want to add anything to that?
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Yeah, no, totally. 100%. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad. And thank you, everybody, for coming. We're not done yet, so we'll go ahead and open up things to the Q&A. I don't know if anybody's actually really posted in the thread. We do have a couple of posts in the thread here. So I'm gonna read through what's in the thread here first, and then I'll try and start answering stuff in chat. So Instant Mix asks, have you considered making news and politics option form hidden from users, external visitors, to help contain some of the politics of the site? I'm active in those areas as well, but not everyone is a fan of it. I'd rather we grow the community than any new users. As Nixnax and I had talked about, that filter system is definitely something that could come into play. The thing is with it's tough with news and politics, because I hate to say it, a lot of times it's those kind of things that drive traffic to the forum, for both good and bad. And let's just put it this way: back on the old Facepunch years, during the fappening, right? If y'all remember the fappening, that was a
good lord.
Yes.
Oh no.
Yes, that was a news thread, if I remember correctly. And you want to talk about bringing traffic to Facepunch? Holy fuck!
I think the only thing that outclassed it was the Crisis 2 reveal.
Yeah, like it was insane how much traffic that drove to the forum and how many new users that brought. And like I said, in terms of Knockout, it kind of does the same thing to an extent. And yeah, like, once again, I know we all know politics can be a cesspit, and news to a lesser extent. But at the same time, that's kind of a reflection of society as a whole when it comes to these things, and it's almost unavoidable when it comes to talking about those sort of subjects. And I think going back to my whole perception thing and trying to improve communication, if we can get our core users to once again try to be more cognizant of one another and communicating with one another better, that is going to go leaps and bounds in terms of kind of lessening the forum disruption that makes those subforums the cesspits that they are. Obviously, there's really no perfect solution for this. And I hate to say it, guys, but when it comes to running an online community, there's no handbook, there's no manual. You know, it's a lot of it's trial and error. You know, obviously, with all of this stuff, we want to revisit it at some point. We want to give it a shot, though, first. I mean, just like the rules, I know we've been really slow about it, but we've been trying to address the rules one at a time because, you know, once again, when we made those rules, they were basically almost carbon copy from Facepunch, and we're not Facepunch. We're not. At this point, we're definitively not. So, you know, we definitely want to make this more of our own in that regard. Oh yeah, the platinum member thing. Yeah, it's funny. We were actually talking about that in voice chat, the platinum member deal with Davor prior to the stream. All right, next one is Snicker Puffs. If paid gold membership is coming back, will any pre-existing gold members have to pay to keep their status? I got mine free, so I'm fine with paying for my status. That's a good question. I mean, you know, it's kind of one of those things where personally, and mind you, none of this stuff isn't set in stone, so don't take this as like this is what we're doing. You know, the way that I look at it, if we award you gold member, you did something cool. And I would say, like, you get it for life. But at the same time, I can understand how that might upset people that are, like, paying the subscription. You know, so I think that's something where we're going to need to have conversation with the community about it. Because, well, let me rephrase that. So there is going to be another sub, or rather another permission for... like community, like a community award or like, you know, moderator award. You know, I know Nixnax brought up the whole community contributor role, which would basically, you know, change your username and give you a title and stuff like that. And we could always approach it from that angle too, where, you know, you get that as opposed to having gold member, and that way you still kind of get the cool little kudos sort of thing. But once again, you know, this is all stuff that's still up for discussion. I mean, shit. There's all sorts of things that we need to hammer out when it comes to that sort of thing. I do know it's like if people start donating and subscribing and all of that stuff, you know, there's definitely a lot of conversation we're going to need to have in terms of like perks, features, you know, how the money's going to be used, stuff like that. And I mean, I will note, in terms of how the money is going to be used, we plan on being pretty much fully transparent about it. You know, the whole point is to use the money for the community, period. So that's what we're doing. But yeah, all right, so moving on. Let's see here. Is light knockout.chat still going to be maintained and active? If not, when logged into the main site, there's an option to stop embeds, videos, and images loading, and cheaper mobile data plans or crummy phones in general. So, Tetra, correct me if I'm wrong, but Knockout Light, that's a pet project for Northern Lights, isn't it?
Yes, that is. So, Light Knockout Chat is a, right now, I think only Northern Lights is the maintainer of that. Wowza and I, the main maintainers on Knockout, primarily work on Knockout.chat, the main front end and the back end. However, to the second question, yes, low data options such as hiding images across the site, hiding embeds, essentially making a lighter experience. I think I would rather try to bring as much of that into the main site as possible. I think if enough members of the community think there's a good use for having a separate site that's made to be lightweight, then that would be something to consider. But I think for now, there are definitely more options we give users on the main site as well to hide images, hide avatars, basically a low data performance mode that eliminates some of the chunkier stuff, you know.
Oh yeah, and that's just it's like the whole thing is like we want to make it so that you guys can tailor your experience the way you want it to be. You know, I mean, I don't know of any. You can't do that on Reddit. You know, like that's to me, it's pretty fucking cool. Okay, so speaking as someone who wanted to contribute to the forum on a programming level for quite some time. Oh, that's not a question. But that Otter Gauze, yeah, you want to help out? Totally. How do you? Here's a good thing to answer, Tetra. For folks that want to help, what is the best way for them to reach out to us and start that ball rolling?
So right now, the best thing you could do, as if you've been posting on the forum for a bit or have at least a little bit of activity, you should have access to the meta subforum. And so that subforum has been used for a variety of things, but in terms of looking for active development ideas, or if you want to propose an idea you want to work on, or you think there could be a better way we could implement some of these things, then you have it's not constricted to making a post in meta or making a thread in meta, but that's where I'm mostly going to see requests like that when I'm looking for that. But that doesn't mean you can't also post in general. If you wanted to discuss it with the forum, you know, as a larger portion of the forum, because general is publicly visible. So, you know, I don't have any restrictions on, you know, where you would share those ideas. You know, I think Knockout, just in general, you can either DM me too if you want. I don't like doing things on Discord, just because I think, you know, I would like to keep communication on Knockout, because that is sort of the platform. You know, just centralized communication on this I like, and trying to fragment that across channels isn't something that I think it works a lot. But so it's hard for users to be proactive when they don't know what to work on, because there's a lot of users that I'm seeing in Knockout who would love to contribute. They would love to. They're either experienced web developers who would love to contribute, or they are they're looking for experience in these kinds of roles, either front end development or back end development. And so I think we're in a really good position from a code base standpoint to give people these opportunities to learn and grow and understand what kind of a system like this works like from a front end, back end, and also infrastructure standpoint. With that said, I would rather, I think we'd see much more success if the development team, if we were a little bit more proactive in terms of giving some direction and direction, like I said earlier, right? Because if we said, for example, you know, support gold member integration with Stripe, there could be 5 or 10 users who would have their own different ideas to do that and would say, hey, I can do it this way, I can do it this way, I can do it this way. And, you know, some of them might make a good system, some of them might not. But that is a very large feature that takes a lot of time. And when everything is said and done, you have 5 or 6 different users who have made this thing. And now it's up to us as maintainers to say, well, who designed the best system? What are these qualities? And that is a very hard, and that is a hard way to do things, because it takes a lot of time. You have to review a lot of code at once if you assign big projects like these out. And so that is all to say, it's not enough to just give developers a roadmap and tell them to go crazy, because, you know, they will have an idea of sort of what to work on, but the implementation is so fuzzy that the consistency and the quality might not be salvageable. And so what we can do on our end is, give some direction and thought in terms of, hey, this is how we imagine this would look like from a database perspective or from a front end perspective. And we would basically say, hey, here's, you know, our acceptance criteria of X, Y, and Z features. And here are the atomic tasks that we would like to have done. And, an example of that would be like if I were implementing something like gold member integration with Stripe, I wouldn't just I wouldn't just tell developers, hey, we need to have this done. I would i would tell developers, I would disseminate individual tasks that make up that larger portion of, yeah, we want to support gold member. But maybe maybe a developer could pick up something like make the table in MySQL, like make the necessary database migrations in MySQL, and that would be the only scope of their project. So that's easier for them to work on. That's easier for us to review and look at. And I think it's like I said earlier, it should be much more efficient, much more efficient and much more fair to people who want to work on Knockout. So, excellent question. If you have an idea or if you want to know how to contribute and sort of push that discussion, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So if enough people want open source development now, then that is definitely something I can push in terms of the other projects I have going on now. It's just time and priorities. But if that is something that enough of the community wants to say, hey, your development would speed up 5 times if you gave us, just these few things, heck yeah. But yeah, that's what I have to say on that.
Well, thank you. It explains this thing much better than I do, because when it comes to web development, I might as well just be blind. I have no idea. Okay, so from Rocket Man, jumped a bit into the stream later. You guys ever going to change how the ticker works? It seems to only show granular events like posts being made and rated when it's open. And then after that, after gold subs are there any plans to sell merch like t-shirts, cups, moderator Dakamakias, and shit like that? So to answer the first question, yeah, I mean, it's definitely something worth working on. To be honest, I'm not one to really use the ticker much. What I would suggest, at least in the short term, is to make a meta thread on it. I know things don't necessarily get addressed rapidly. I always like to joke we work on Valve time just a little bit faster. But that's where like the notes get made, you know what I mean? That's where the developers are looking at stuff, they're seeing stuff. I think the biggest problem with addressing features like that sooner than later is, once again, priorities. All of our guys are volunteers, and so they're working on this stuff in their free time, and there are projects that do kind of take precedence over things like that, sadly. And so it's not to say that it can't be addressed. I just can't say when. It's kind of one of those things where, I hate to say it, we'll get to it when we get to it. As far as selling merch or whatever, how you want to pronounce it, it's definitely something I've thought about. I know I actually have, I gotta figure out where I put it. I have one of the original prototype knockout patches, way back. I thought it would be kind of fun to have stuff like that. I would love to have like a punchy plushie. I think that would be really cool. But that's kind of one of those things where we kind of got to get to that bridge when we get to it. I definitely know, like, so I'm not going to say any specifics here, but one of the things I wanted to do was host like a community event to make assets for the community. So whether it's like 3D models, different graphics, things that you could throw on t-shirts, stuff like that, I think that would be kind of a fun community event to do. And like if we were to do merch, obviously, like, oh yeah, we're gonna make a t-shirt and you guys get to pick it. That would be the way I would want to approach it, because we definitely have a lot of very talented people here, and it only makes sense to have the folks in the community make the stuff for the community. But right now, that's it's a bit of a back burners thing. I mean, it's definitely something that we thought about, and we dabbled the waters, tested the waters a bit on it. The other aspect of it, it's like, well, how do we handle that? You know, do we use a service like Zazzle? Not saying we would use Zazzle, but you know, a third-party thing like that where we don't have to have our hands on it. Would we rather, you know, order inventory and I ship it out personally? You know, there's definitely some other aspects of it that we'd have to figure out before we could actually start producing any sort of merch. Why am I Midwestern? Because I got borned in St. Paul, Minnesota. And, yeah. Harry from Disco Elysium. Yes. The cool cousin that buys you smokes. Hell yeah, man. Let's see. They're commenting on this. Thank you. Yes. Many people like the mutton chops. I like the mutton chops. I'm happy to have mutton. Yeah. Excellent attempt at Swedish. Yes. And it's funny. I studied Swedish in college, and I'm fourth generation Swedish, and my grandma would like sing me Swedish lullabies and shit, but I'm very bad at it. Let's see here. There should be a way to report users from a profile, because there's sometimes where a user with no post keep rating posts dumb, and there's no way to report them. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Nixnax, you want to write that down somewhere? I think we had something like that too early on from the moderator side, where we didn't have the option to ban people from the profile, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's actually a good idea to have that. And I do know, like, yeah, there's definitely like troll accounts that make shit just to dumb people, and yeah, we don't like that. In the short term, just shoot us a DM on the forum. Or what some users have done is they've reported the post or the user that they've been dumbing, and then in their explanation they explain that the user is doing that sort of thing. That's kind of a reasonable workaround for the time being. I'm just here to say you like the chops. Thank you. Yeah, everybody loves the chops. I love the chops, as I said. Have we considered removing the dumb rating? I think it exacerbates a lot of negative feelings people get when arguing. Well, that's why we have box hide. So for those who are unfamiliar, what am I doing here? If you go into your settings here, you have a couple of different options already to, once again, tailor your experience. And so, what was it? I think it was box hiding, or box hide deluxe. Right now it currently just hides all ratings in general. I'm sure at some point we could tailor it just to hide dumbs or something like that. I mean, I hate to say it, man. It's kind of part of the forum culture, and while I would agree that it does kind of exacerbate things, we've tried removing it before. Not on Knockout, but we had done it on Facepunch, and all that happened is instead of using dumb, folks moved to I can't remember if it was either optimistic, informative, or tool, useful. I think it was useful. Basically, people just turn a new one into the new dumb, is what it boils down to. Like I said, I'd rather we tailor allow the users to tailor the experience for themselves than stifle things that are basically like hallmarks of the forum. Let's see here. Will we ever bring the yeet rating button back? So we've internally have talked about that, and honestly, I my personal opinion is I like it being the kind of hidden rating, you know, and that was actually something I was going to expand upon. Basically, just add a bunch of ratings that don't necessarily have a genuine use, but are like funny or silly or dumb. And it's kind of like the OFY or like the secret menu at In-N-Out, where if you know, you know. And the thing is, like, in order to post yeet, it really isn't that hard. I'm not going to say it, because if you know, you know. But I think, personally, I think doing it that way kind of adds this layer of fun to it. This layer of like, how do you do that? I want to do that. Dude, that's cool. I want to be cool. I mean, it reminds me of, once again, like the OFY. Not so much going there, but how you got there. For the longest time, it was a hidden forum, and the only way to access it was if somebody told you or you knew how to get there. And it I don't want to say it made it like this cool kids club, because obviously the OFI was just a cesspit of garbage. I mean, that was its point, but yuck. But it's kind of one of those like neat little featurette kind of things, That's the way that I view it. I mean, once again, I'm not opposed to making it a button again, but I do know when we did do it as like an April Fool's thing, there was a lot of people that were like, "Why is this a rating?" And I get it. I do. I don't necessarily want to have it be like a Discord channel where we have like 1,000 frickin' ratings of random crap as far as ratings are concerned. But, having a few dumb hidden, you can use it if you know how to use it sort of things. I think it adds a little bit of fun and helps kind of keep things a little bit lighthearted, Let me just check chat here real quick, because I'm sure there's some stuff that I missed. So Pornhub, I wanted to learn a second language. A true poster fears no dumb box. Yeah, I think I think dumbs are my 4th. Wow, 5th. I'm doing better than I thought. I thought it was like 3rd.
Hey Jim.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to head out here.
Yeah, no worries.
Before I head out, I just wanted to say to everyone watching, it's so nice to have you guys here. It's wonderful to be able to have everyone participating on the forum. I really do think that this forum has a bright future ahead of it. So all y'all stay frosty, stay hydrated. Have a good day.
All right, thank you, Zilla, for joining us today. Thank you for coming to the stream. Okay. Let me look here quick. I thought I saw a question here. Yeah, no, in terms of citation needed, yeah, I agree. We kind of wanted to make it a forum, a subforum specific rating, although I guess at this point it wouldn't matter if we made it forum wide. The reason we didn't do that was because correct me if I'm wrong, Tetra, but the way that ratings are handled, it's kind of like all or nothing, or at least it was. You either had the rating and it was everywhere, or you didn't have the rating. And then we did kind of fix it to be just in a particular subforum.
Yeah, we can have individual subforum ratings.
Well, shit, we might. I mean, at this point, you're okay. Thank you, because I apologize. Like I said, my memory issues are fucky. I forgot that we had done that. I think it'd be worth making citation needed across the whole forum. I don't think anybody's gonna have a problem with that. Doesn't necessarily need to be subforum specific.
Yeah, especially if we have dumb.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's see here. Other than knock out Micronation, I don't know. Will we ever bring back emotes? Whether we just import the old FP emotes or create new ones, I'd love to see them return in some form. I agree. We had actually, this was a long time ago at this point, but we had talked about doing something like that. As far as bringing back old Facepunch emotes, a lot of those were actually just ripped from SA. And I mean, I think there were some memorable ones for Facepunch, but it's kind of like the Postal Mega Barney thing, with the bulged out eyes. One, Postal isn't really a part of this community anymore. And he pops in every once in a while, but he's not a major player with the mod team, and he's not doing this sort of thing. That was kind of part of Facepunch's culture. We definitely have our own culture at this point. And while I'm not against pulling a thing or two to honor our heritage, so to speak, I think having user-created emotes would probably be the better route to go about it. in terms of bringing them back, I think that might be something worth having a community discussion about. If you want to make a thread in general and just get a gauge for how the community feels about it, I think that would be really beneficial. I'm not opposed to it. I wouldn't mind bringing it back, but I do know for some portions of the community, especially in like serious topic threads, going back to the whole perception thing, using certain stuff could be deemed inflammatory or offensive or something like that. And, I think that would be my only apprehension about doing that sort of thing. Just because, once again, you're deriving intent from text and an emoticon. There's a lot of interpretation that can be had across many different individuals on the forum. So, but I definitely think that's something worth having a conversation about. Because I think it would have a positive benefit to the forum. I think, especially if we were to use emoticons made through the community, that would really be a fun way to go about doing it. Definitely get more community involvement with it. I think that would be, personally, I think that would be a lot of fun. As long as we, are cognizant of what it could bring, I think we can approach it in a very constructive manner. For lack of a better term. Everybody loves the button troops. Uncle Button Troops. There was a recent discussion about bringing the useful rating back. Any progress on that front? No. Simply put, mostly because it's just been super backburnered. I do understand. We had a conversation on it a while back, and I think the biggest concern we had as the moderators was the old useful rating was a wrench. Well, what did that turn into? You're a tool. That's what that rating ultimately turned into. And so we wanted to try to come up with something that wouldn't have a potential negative connotation attached to it, or at least not so prima facie about it.
Yeah.
It's like
I almost feel like you could. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, you say, but
Yeah, I almost feel like it could be something that could be merged with the good idea rating. Something along the lines of, this is a good idea, this is a good thing. Because I don't know if we would need good idea and useful together. Although I can see why useful is slightly different. I think if we went that way, it would be less easily turned into tool.
yeah, and that's just it. Is like oftentimes, well, a great example is the optimistic rating, right? When anybody uses that, it's not because they're actually genuinely optimistic about what's being said in that thread. It's usually used sarcastically, pretty much all the time. While that wasn't necessarily the intent behind the rating, that's the meaning the rating has more or less assumed. And it's not like I'm gonna change it to try to bring it back to its original intention. I think its current intention serves a purpose that's definitely worth retaining. But kind of going back to what Tetra had said, Nixnax Tetra, there is a certain point where we start to reach redundancy in some stuff. There starts to be some overlap, and like you said, I definitely can understand the difference, the subtle difference between like, hey, that's a good idea, and hey, this is useful. But at the same time, I can also go like, well, how many ratings do we really need? Once again, I don't necessarily want to have like 25 different ratings, because at that point you're just gonna have redundancy. But once again, I'm not necessarily opposed to bringing the useful rating back. I think, well, as I said, it's kind of a back burner issue now. We're probably not going to be addressing it really anytime soon. But that's not to say I'm opposed to addressing it at a later date. It's just we have bigger things to kind of tackle at this time that we want to get done. And like I said, developer time is precious. It's volunteer time. It's when they want to work on it on their own accord. And so I want to make sure we're utilizing that time to maximize the benefit to the community in terms of, you know, the big picture, big features, functionality, that sort of thing. I'm gonna read through stream chat here real quick. More esoteric ratings. Yeah, that's where the whole hidden rating thing was going to kind of come into play. I wanted to make Danny DeVito one, just for shits and giggles. I think it'd be funny. Having ratings that come and go. Oh, as far as like the hidden rating stuff, like just cycle them through. That's not a bad idea. And I think that's something we can do relatively easily, isn't it, Tetra? Because I know you got yeet up like hella quick.
Yeah. The emote system is still relatively basic, but it does support the things we need it to do, essentially, which is restrict per subforum, have hidden ones that aren't displayed in the UI if we want. And yeah, we could do anything. I could add a rating for one day that will only exist once, ever. One, if I wanted to.
Well, I know what I'm doing for April Fools. All right. The GigaChad rating win. Just maximum jaw. I should Photoshop myself with the mutton chops and just square. Let me see if if anybody added any Q&A questions to the thread.
Would it be possible to make a rating that had like a limited amount? Like it could only be used like 200 times ever, and then it's gone.
Like an NFT?
That would be kind of neat. That would be kind of neat.
No.
So
we can do better. We can charge people $50 per emote. Just with USD. We don't even need crypto. We'll just do it.
So looking in Twitch chat, Pacifist Heavy asks, is there anything that can be done about the broken Twitter embeds? If I remember correctly, that's a browser issue, because I know that's come up before. And I know, I'm trying to think back, because the last time this came up, I had that issue myself on one of my browsers, and the issue for me was the version of Chrome that I was on. I hadn't updated, and then once I updated and cleared the cache, it fixed itself. Because I know that was also a similar issue on... We had this issue where, like, the buttons up top, if you were on mobile, the buttons up top would, like, disappear, and you could see that there was a comment made or a reply made to a post. Like, you would see the red number 1 or 2 or whatever, but you wouldn't actually see the bubble for it, and it was all goofy. But, yeah, like Reggie said, it's a browser issue. Let's see, is there... And for folks watching, if you want to go ahead and post questions in the thread's kind of the better place to do it, because chat is going relatively quick. But I will try to catch you if you end up asking one in the stream chat. Okay, so I guess the ratings conversation, Nagumi asks, I guess the ratings conversation reminded me, will we ever get a section or profiles that says how many ratings we've given out, like Facepunch had? That's a good question. That's not something I ever even considered, nor is it something I even remember. But then again, I've had like 7 concussions, so I don't remember a lot. I mean... It's possible. Could it happen? Sure. I'm not opposed to it. Kind of going back to like the useful rating thing, at least in terms of our current developers and stuff, it's a relatively low priority. But once again, like for the folks that want to help develop the forum, that's something you could work on. That could be a feature you could add. That's 100% cool. I'd be totally down for that. It's just having the manpower. It's having somebody with time to be able to sit down and do it is really what it boils down to. And that's the case with a lot of these sort of things. It's just, for the folks that want to help develop and folks bringing up ideas as far as this sort of thing, there's some stuff that we can start tackling, it's just stepping forward, stepping up to the plate and getting it done. And like Nixnax had alluded to earlier, there's a process that him and the maintainers want to try to do it in as far as that stuff goes. But you can definitely get the ball rolling with that sort of thing. You could lead off with something like that if you wanted to take a small nibble at something. Definitely something that everybody who has web development experience is more than welcome to work on. Let's see here. Yeah, Nagumi, my memories are pretty sketched too. I remember some big events. I remember a lot of the really bad stuff. The stuff that never made it onto the forum. The back-end mod stuff. I remember a lot of that, but a lot of events on the forums I don't really remember that well. Let's see, do we got any... Let me refresh the thread quick here. Do we have any other questions? We're on page 3 now. That means, yeah. Is Johnny Mole 1 even on Knockout anymore? Let's find out.
Yes.
There he is. He's there. And he posted 17 hours ago, so he's still around. Hell yeah. Oh, the page, yeah. Sorry guys, I do have auto mod on like maximum, just because I didn't want to deal with outside griefers and shit like that, which thankfully has not been a problem today. I'm very happy about that. All right. Okay, and then thank you, Snicker Puffs, for posting that in the thread. And we'll go ahead and open that up just real quick. Oh, you posted it 3 minutes ago. Cool. Good. Cool.
Cool and good.
This is a cool and good. Det är mycket bra. Mycket bra. I don't know if it'd be worth it, but pretty sure most people have actually seen the mod tools. I mean, I guess I could show some of them. We did get a little sneak peek of some stuff, so... And good news, we don't have anything really sensitive going on, but this is just the dashboard. It tells us pretty basic information. This is all reports. I probably shouldn't have clicked that, but... Oops. This right here is kind of the general users list, so this gives us a live feed of all the people that are, as they actively make accounts, and then we can search up stuff by username. IP lookup is pretty much verbatim what it says, as far as what it's supposed to do. The tags here is the list of tags, so we can add tags and remove tags at will. We just haven't really added many because I think right now we have a decent plethora of what we got going on. We don't necessarily want to make a whole lot until we, possibly build like a filter, or what am I saying, like a, kind of like how Twitch has tags, and you can click on that tag and it'll bring up all the shit in regard to that tag. Once we have something like that going on, then maybe we'll expand upon the tags. The MOTD is basically to make that big blue bar at the top, right there. And, is this not showing that? It is. Okay, good. And then the admin panel just has some stuff for
raid mode.
Yeah, I mean, it has raid mode basically, which is it's a soft lock to the forum. It's basically to prevent, like, if you get a bunch of griefers or bad actors or somebody that's like really dumb and just decides to spam making alts and do something stupid. It allows us to lock the forum down from account creations and lock threads that are beneath a certain criteria. We haven't had to turn it on for a very, very, very long time. So it's mostly just there predominantly to stop, like, once again, a genuine raid, which we already have enough back-end tools in place now to where, for the most part, that's a non-issue. I mean, it pretty much, it just is. Like I said, we haven't had to turn it on. We haven't had to turn it on in a very long time, thanks to the work of the developers. If I can English today. Yeah, they don't need to be batted on the back end. We've actually had front end ability to add tags for a really long time. It's just aside from showing you what country or topic that the tag, the thread's about, it doesn't really have a use beyond that just yet. Eventually I'd like to have a system kind of like what Twitch has, where you can pick on a tag category and it'll bring up threads and stuff like that, and then we could do a more expansive tagging system that makes more sense. But for the time being, they're kind of like a Blue style tags. Just right now there's no use for that. We don't have a way to do that, so there hasn't really been a point to expand upon the tags as of late. Any thoughts on open sourcing the operations side of KO more than just the development side of things? Morgan, if you're in chat, I asked you to elaborate on that. I'm not really sure what you mean by that. In terms of like operations, as far as like site maintenance, paying bills, coordinating things, that's all pretty taken care of. Like forum, like the actual server physical shit to run the forum is pretty much completely taken care of by Northern Lights, and it's not like it's a very hands-on thing to begin with. Once the paid subscription thing goes on and everything, Ice Cold already has it all figured out. It's all taken care of. When it comes to things like the community events and stuff like that, like we said earlier on in the stream, with the implementation of the calendar and like the community contributor user group and stuff like that, that allows for quote-unquote operations to be taken care of. Oh, infrastructure as code, deployment pipelines, and the like. Okay. Tetra, I don't know any of that, so I will let you elaborate.
So right now our infrastructure is pretty simple. We have 2 static servers on DigitalOcean and a database server. Right now I don't think we have any automatic load balancing, but that is to say right now the infrastructure is pretty simple, and we do have automated CI and CD with GitLab. However, there is room to make it a little bit more robust, so adding things like load balancing, adding a background worker if we wanted that. That would require possibly some infrastructure work. But in terms of our operations and DevOps right now, we're at a pretty good place. It's not. It does what it does. I don't have any like super interesting ideas or needs for our infrastructure at the moment. Possibly as we go more into data analytics, I might look into using a custom TL for that to provide better analytics for us as we get more users and posts, etc. We have more than I think 10 million posts right now, so maybe some BI tools in the future would help. But no, it's a good question. But our general infrastructure is very it does what it needs to. It's simple and it doesn't have a lot of moving parts. Our storage is in DigitalOcean as well, so yeah, it's pretty simple. So we don't require as much active development on that end. Um, yeah, hope that helped a little bit.
Thank you, Tetra. Because yeah, that was all Greek to me. Which honestly, the way you were talking about that actually reminded me of some stuff. So I know I touched on base earlier about talking about gold membership and the paid subscription or donations and money and what we're going to do with it. So historically, like back when Facepunch, we had the Facepunch Community Fund, we basically used the money to just like host game servers and do giveaways. And while that's cool, as you guys know, we got like way more money than we expected ever get, and we were like, okay, what do we do now? And obviously, that turned into the pins, which was phenomenal. And I can't thank Gary and Hezzy enough and Reggie for doing all of that, because that was a lot of work. That was a lot of work. But that's where the community fund went with that. And obviously, amount of it would go towards upkeep costs, although I will say our upkeep costs are pretty low. And I know Northern Lights is working on something to lower it even more. I mean, to be frank, I could subsidize our operating costs easily. So it's not like we need heavy investment in terms of covering our operating costs, but there are definitely like some back-end tools, like paid back-end tools that we would like to use. Obviously, we'd like to use it to host some game servers, and that coincides kind of with a community event. Use it for things like prize pools if we just decide to do a game jam and stuff like that. But I mean, this is the other thing too. It's like we have no idea how much money we're gonna get. We have no idea how much things are going to be contributed, and it's very difficult to try and plan when you have no idea how much is going to be coming in. But there obviously there's we have had the forethought to go, well, hey, what happens if we get this much? What happens if we get this much? How are we going to use this effectively? How are we going to use this in a way? Because like I said, you can do so many you can do so many you can only host so many servers, you can only host so many prize pools for stuff and giveaways and stuff like that, and it starts to get kind of redundant. I would rather try and use the money constructively once again to help with the betterment of the forum. So whether it's once again like back end paid tools to help out with things there, I don't know, stuff like that. Like that's the way we want to use it. Once again, once all that stuff goes live, once we start getting the numbers, then we'll kind of have a more open conversation about how some things should be used. And as I said too, like we plan on being 100% transparent about where the money's going. Nobody's here for money, man. Nobody's here to make money. Nobody's here to turn this into the next Reddit so we can start getting that sweet ad revenue. Like, no. that's not why we're here. Yeah.
Pay people to use the site.
You gotta get going. But thanks for joining me. Thank you for explaining a lot of that stuff, because I have no idea what it is. I appreciate you coming in today. You really you helped me understand a better side, your side of the stuff, even more so than our own previous conversations. So thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. Thanks everyone for coming, and I will talk to you all sometime soon. Boy.
Woo! Thank you for the chops once again too. I'm so happy I got these too. So that for those of you that were at the start of the stream, that song that I played was a song for me and my brother's band, and he had handlebar mustache for a really long time, and I just had a full beard, and I'm like, you know what? I want to join the Big Hoss Cub. I'm gonna get out my Ray-Bans and my Big Dog T-shirt, and get on my Harley and wear mutton chops. And I haven't looked back since. All right, so let's see if there's been any other. Yes, it was snus. It was snus. I actually used to import my snus from Sweden because it was cheaper for one, and two, there's just like way more flavors there. But a couple years ago, United States changed up their import rules, and so I couldn't get it through the post anymore. I had to get it through Common Courier, and that turned what would be like a $30 month and a half's worth of snus order into like a $120 order, and it's like, God damn it. Yo, Lemmy's back. Yo, the ace of spades. All right, let's see if there's any other questions on the stream. And by the way, I mean, you guys can go ahead and shoot. If you got any questions on the forum, and you can go ahead and post them in stream or in the thread. The thread is probably a little bit easier because I'm guaranteed to see it. Chat tends to go a little bit faster. But yeah, go ahead and fire away. I'm gonna go use the restroom real quick. When I get back, if there's some questions, I'll address them. If there aren't too many other questions, I'll probably start to wrap this up. Technically, I have all day. If people want to talk all day, we can talk all day about whatever. But otherwise, if most people are content with where things are, I'll probably take my leave after I get back, depending on how many questions there are, stuff like that. But just hang tight. I'll be right back. I just got to piss real bad. This is what I get for drinking a bang and a rock star. So hang tight. BRB. All right, I'm back. I'm gonna have to leave. To be honest, I've never been on FP or SA nor with social media before 2016. Pretty much anything regarding FP, I just talk about one over my head. But if everything remains cool after this, I won't complain. Yo, I will tell you, it's definitively better. Oops, earbuds are in right. I'm just dumb. Compared to like prior to 2016 stuff, believe me when I say it's better. It's definitely better. Well, it's because I went upstairs. All right, let me refresh this real quick. My hardest piss. I remember playing Rising Storm 2 and talking about snus. Is the funniest thing ever. Ever since I heard it's like really fucking bad for your gums and shit, but man, snus is funny. I do want snus. I like snus. I was in the military. And in the military, you either smoked, you drank, you dipped, or you did all three. And I was one that did all three. And after having a few of my buddies get gum transplants, I'm like, all right, I don't really want to give up tobacco, but I don't want to do that. And at least if you get your stuff from Sweden, they treat it like a food product there. Which the snus that I do have is from Sweden. It's just imported commercially as opposed to me doing it individually. And it's, of the chewing tobaccos, it's probably the least caustic because it's steam cured instead of being fire cured. Here I am rambling about snus on a stream about the forum. But current, yeah, let's see. The current iteration of Knockout is the best group I've ever been in. This is from an OG 05er. Yo, I can't agree more. As an 05er myself, I can't agree more. Ice cold. Hello. Hello, hello. I need to do this for you. Bazooper. Okay. Conscription turned everybody to smoker in the back of my country because we either smoke break or dig a trench. Yeah, that's how I started, man. I wasn't a smoker before I joined the military. I became one in the military because I found out I could get a 15-minute break damn near whenever I wanted if I went to have a smoke break. What do you mean I don't have the permission to do that? I'm the freaking whatever. I didn't know SNES was a thing until this day. Yeah, no, it's weird. They introduced it in the United States, I think, over a decade ago, or at least like formally introduced it. I hope we can have meetups at some point. COVID really short-circuited those plans. I would agree. And one of the things I wanted to do was like, for your old members especially, you might remember the old Camp Facepunch thing, and that predominantly happened in the UK. But long story short, a couple of the mods at that time had an event, and everybody went camping, and I thought that was pretty cool. I think our biggest problem is we were smaller, and we don't necessarily have the same density as other parts of the world here in the United States. And so trying to put up together something like that with more than, say, 2 or 3 people can be a bit of a challenge. But, I mean, all the power to you if you want to do that. I know I would like to do it at some point here in Minnesota. It's just time. Time can be hard. There we go. That should have... Why do I not have... whatever. I'll deal with it later. If we do meetups in the future, will there be a ball pit? I mean, there can be. There can be, man. Ball pit mandatory. Mandatory ball pits. The state of the forum. Alrighty, well, does anybody have any other questions? Any comments, concerns? If you want to roast me, go ahead. I mean, go, even if it's something like a moderator policy, if it's on, it doesn't necessarily have to be like big picture, are you going to be doing stuff? It's like, why did you handle things this way? Why did you approach things this way? You can ask those kind of questions too. That's 100% acceptable, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. And yeah, as somebody may go to read up in the UK, there's a reasonable amount of folks in the UK, and in my opinion, the UK is small enough to where it's a lot more conducive. I think my state alone is like 2/3 the size of mainland UK, so that just to give a sense of scale. Definitely a bit more conducive to that sort of thing. And once like the whole community event calendar thing comes up, that's something you could post in there. That would be pretty cool. And more handsome than I expected. Am I happy being the head mod of KO? I'm content with it. It's kind of one of those things where it's not like I didn't ask for it. Basically, when we started Knockout and we're getting on the wheelhouse turn, and pretty much Hezzy was slated to be the community head, and he decided that I don't want to take as an active role. I've got my own personal life, and I have other things I want to be able to focus on. And so at the time, the mod team that was there kind of came to a consensus, said, hey, you want to do it? I'm like, okay, sure. And, it can definitely be stressful at times. There have definitely been events that I wouldn't say it made me question why I'm still doing this, but it definitely pushed me to my emotional limits in terms of stress. because like I said, we all kind of have an emotional attachment to this to some degree or another, and there are definitely events that are stressful. They're very emotionally very stressful. But, you know, like I said, I've been around for almost 17 years now. It'll be 17 years in October that I've been with this community. And I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't want to. You know, I wouldn't be doing these sorts of things if this wasn't something I genuinely enjoyed and cared about. So, you know, being the community manager, it definitely has its perks and it definitely has its downsides. You know, like I said, I think you all can name a time where I put my foot in my mouth or said something dumb or made a stupid post or did something that caused a tizzy. And even now, you know, I'd like to think I'm a lot more cognizant of that sort of thing, and I feel like I've done a good job at avoiding that. But you know, at the same time, I definitely have to be a lot more mindful of how I approach things, and that isn't a bad thing. It isn't a bad thing at all. You know, in many regards, it's kind of helped me do that in my own life, and with people in general. And I'd like to think that it's not just made me a better moderator or a better community manager, but it's helped make me a better person. It sounds weird saying that over an online forum, but you don't do this for 17 years and not have some of it rub off on you, for better or for worse. So yeah, I am happy being the community manager, and you know, as long as you guys are still happy with me, I guess we'll keep this gravy train rolling. You know. Let me see if I know there was a couple of chats here that I missed. Let's see what about. What is your opinion on people adding "ussy" to words and body parts? That's a meme that I just I don't really care about. I think it's I don't know. Some people find it funny. I find some of it funny, but it's not like I don't even think about it really. It's a 5-hour drive up and down all of the UK. Yeah, the 5-hour drive to me is to Canada. Snoozy. I look the snoozy. Yes. I say, living in Canada, which is physically larger, but I guess America is large in size and population, which is spooky. I mean, that's just it. You know, there in LA County alone, there are more people than my entire state. It's crazy. Let's see here. In terms of Hezzy and the drama, I mean, there's a lot of points of contention that people have with Hezzy, and you know, I'm not gonna rattle off every single little thing, but you know, there are people that have very, very strong opinions on how he handled things, and myself, I didn't always agree with a lot of it. I shouldn't say a lot of it. There were definitely things I didn't agree with. But, you know, at the same time, I think, especially in those contexts, there's still a lot of people that hold a lot of animosity that it doesn't matter anymore. You know, it really doesn't matter anymore. You got to remember, for the majority of Facepunch's life, we were all teenagers. And, well, what do teenagers do? You know, we make bad decisions. And I know that some of that stuff happened when he was in his 20s and all that, but it's like, it's over and done with, you know. And I've known Hezzy for a long time. I still talk with him semi-regularly. I think he's a great guy in person. I think he's a really good he's a good person. He is genuinely a good person. He's always been very kind to me, and he's helped me out with a lot of things. And you know, like I said, I can't really comment for people that hold different opinions on that. But you know, I'm thankful to have had somebody like him kind of help show me the ropes in a lot of ways, because diving into moderation, it's a completely different world. The way you have to approach things, the way you have to view things, the way you have to think about things. I mean, once you get a green name, it really does change how the forum is, and I'm glad that I had him to help kind of guide me through that. Do mods feel hesitant on joining discussions? Yes. Yeah, there's definitely times where we are. Example for myself is like talking about 2A stuff. You know, it's not like it was on Facepunch. You know, in terms of the Second Amendment, I think Knockout had a paradigm shift. On Facepunch, it was pretty anti-gun. On Knockout, it's pretty pro-gun. And so now I'm kind of part of the majority as opposed to the minority. But still, you know, bringing up that, once again, it's a sensitive topic, especially in the United States. And it can be very challenging to try to approach a conversation like that without coming off as a shitty person and or as retaliatory, and especially when it comes to like trying to deal with that. So I'm sure some of you know, like standard SOP, if you do get engaged in a conversation and the conversation devolves into something bannable, with the exception of really blatant stuff, like if somebody outright flames you or somebody starts flaming somebody else, yeah, we're going to step in. But if it's more of like not so direct but bannable sort of thing, it's you recuse yourself. You let another mod do it because it can be perceived as retaliatory. And I mean, I had that happen to me. It was a couple months back. It was actually in that same thread where I stepped away because the same 5 people were having a circular conversation. But I was in the communication, and I had replied to somebody, and I don't even remember what their username is. I didn't even know who they were when I was in the thread. And later on, they did something that was bannable, but wasn't one of those blatantly bannable things. And I hadn't participated for a while, and I thought, oh, right, you know, it's probably been long enough I haven't participated. So I banned them. And then they made a thread about it and they changed your background to say, like, UncleJimmema is a terrible mod. And it's like, you know, they took it as I was being retaliatory. And it's like, I don't even know who you are. I'm sorry. Like, wasn't really meant to be retaliatory. I just, it was, you did something bannable and I hadn't been in the conversation for a while. But once again, it goes back to that perception sort of thing. And, I mean, there's definitely times where, going back to the whole communication, let's try to do warnings instead of bans and all that good jazz. You know, I step into a thread and I say, hey, let's take a step back here, and I get dumbed to hell and back, and I get people hounding me to ban that person. And it's like, yeah, you know, nobody likes to get dogpiled, and I get it. I got a thick enough skin to handle it. I'm not gonna go around ban people and bitch about it and stuff like that. But it does really make me apprehensive to try and approach conversations in a certain light. And I know it's definitely the case for pretty much every moderator. You know, like I said, once you get a green name, you might as well just paint a target on your back. You know, there are going to be people that will completely detest you for decisions that you make. They're going to have people that praise you for the decision you make. And you're going to have a whole lot of people in between. And like I said, it can be very stressful at times. It can be very stressful trying to approach things and not come off as like dictating moderator policy or banning, you know, you're banning somebody retaliatory, or, you know, you're here's this head of the community being a dick to someone, you know, like I said, you have to approach things differently. And as I said, I apologized to a user the other day because I was being aggressive, and it's like, as a community manager, I shouldn't be approaching conversation that way, especially when I'm trying to prevent that from happening. And here I am doing it myself, you know. But you know, once again, it's like we all have room for improvement in terms of how we handle that sort of thing. And being a moderator, I think it's good to have a certain level of apprehension when entering any sort of conversation. I think we can all rattle off times on Facepunch and to a lesser extent Knockout where moderators did a bunch of really dumb shit. Yeah, and that's how that usually happens. Let me refresh the thread here real quick. oh yeah, the hesitance to join the discussion. I wasn't really talking about other discussions too much, but and I started answering it. Okay, so let's see here. Can we see you ban someone live stream so we can vicariously experience your personal power fantasies through you? Well, I mean, I don't have any reports right now. And even if we did, I wouldn't want to show that. I don't, like I said, I kind of made a mistake when I clicked on the report button because I forgot that now it shows dismissed reports as well. And I don't want it to be like, oh, that person reported me? Fuck that guy. And it's like, no, it's not that at all, but people take it that way. Let's see here. Been a while since I've been on Twitch. Yo, welcome back to Twitch, Ice Cold. I heard through the grapevine that you're going to be doing some Jack in the Box games again. I'm excited for that. Let's see. I like the set of mods we have right now. Nice to see you run as well. And as I'm sure most of you know, we do have some new mods. Hail to the Fear and I can't think of his name right now. But yeah, new mods. Yes. And, we do plan on expanding the mod team steadily over time. I'm not thinking we're going to have like 30 mods or anything like that, but, depending on how things go, we might need 30 mods. You never know. But I'm happy that we have some new mods too. I'm really happy to have them. I know we kind of dragged our feet for a while as far as getting new mods, but, I know so somebody asked this question, how are new mods picked? It's not like there's a set thing, I know, like, back in the day, and even to this day, I think a lot of people have this perception that it's like a good old boys club kind of thing. We just pick our friends or whatever, and it's like, aside from Emperor and Zilla, I don't even know who most people's real names are. We mostly just focus on our job. And yeah, we have banter about various stuff in mod chat, but we don't really know each other personally very much. Zilla I know fairly well due to some stuff going on with them, and Emperor I know really well because they've helped me a lot with some back-end work, and prior mods. Nukiava is probably the only mod I actually socialized with a lot outside of the forum, and obviously I know a bunch of former mods from Facepunch, but when it comes to picking people, we have done it a bunch of different ways over the years. We had community votes. We picked people that were well known and stuff like that. And when we approached it this way, we're like we should find somebody that isn't well known, because typically if you are well known, it's for a reason, and it's not always a good reason. And it took us some time to kind of filter through all the different users. And I mean, I asked quite a few people, and I also made sure that for the folks that were interested, I spelled out what this really entails. And a lot of people politely declined because there's a lot of bad shit that happens, shit that will hopefully never see the light of day when it comes to the forum. But I'm really, really happy with our new mods. I think they're going to do very, very well. They have shown through their posting history and just from our conversations and mod chat and everything like that they have a very sound sense of judgment, and they have a very good understanding of the social atmosphere of the forum, and that's what we were looking for. We weren't looking for people that we knew. We weren't looking to add our friends. We were looking for people that were going to be right for the job, because it is, like I said, it's a stressful job. It can be very stressful, and then, like I said, there's a lot of really bad things that have happened that we had to contend with that affected our personal lives, and that sort of thing is not for the faint of heart. It can be incredibly stressful and incredibly difficult to have to deal with this sort of things. And so to find someone that's willing to accept that burden on top of what you all see on the forum, it's a momentous undertaking, and I can't thank them enough for stepping up to the plate. Yeah, and the opinion poll thing, I could see that. I could see that going bad quickly. You know, that sort of thing kind of turns into an air out a dirty laundry list sort of thing, and it's like, we definitely always have room for improvement, guys. I'm not, you know, we definitely have room for improvement. But, you know, doing something like that, I think just breeds toxicity. And like I said, it's the certain things that people say they are hurtful. It's like, oof, the man, shit. That's how you think of me. That sucks. And it's like, you know, once again, it's like, you don't know me as a person, and I'm hoping most of you watching now kind of have a better understanding who I am. But it would just be a very frustrating way to try to approach it. But constructive criticism, always. As I said, you know, we don't improve unless we know what we're doing wrong. And, you know, my whole life mantra is not to make the same mistake twice. You know, can't say that I haven't, but that is something I definitively try and do. And the only way I'm going to know that I'm doing something wrong is if somebody tells me. So there are definitely constructive ways that we can go about doing something like that. And hell, that might even be something worth doing a Q&A open chat like this, because then it's more personable. Then you actually get to at least hear the voice behind the username. You know what I mean? It adds that level of personal connection that offers better context and communication than what text ever would. The mods that sell the least Akamaki errors of themselves in a given quarter get replaced with a new mod. Yo. And yeah, Reggie is right. There are some mods that will outright avoid particular conversations. It's not to say they won't look at them and perform their mod duties, but they just won't engage in it. And I think Reggie explained it very, very well. On to a specific, okay, and Rosie asked, on to a specific, it's hard to give it a even somewhat nuanced opinion on knockout. I've shifted a lot from variety gun to hesitant and somewhat programming cases, but it doesn't even seem to matter in the reception. The amount of dummies you seem to get for saying no gun should ever exist or guns are fine except maybe howitzers and singers for other civilians. I'm not even going to ban you for that. And that's actually kind of what I was trying to touch on with that whole perception thing and how the community reacts to that. And as I said, I'm guilty of doing that myself. I really am, and I probably dumbed you. And my apologies for that. You know, once again, I'm very, very passionate about that. I think most of you have been around long enough to know that, and I think most of you also have been around long enough to know that I'm not a Bible thumping conservative, and so at least socially and politically, it puts me in a very unique position when it comes to trying to marry, you know, generally progressive politics with strong Second Amendment beliefs. I think part of the problem is when it comes to arguing topics like that, and I'm not just talking the Second Amendment, but things that, like people for me, bring strong emotional connections to the topic. You know, part of it kind of boils down to people not wanting to recognize the merits of others' arguments. And like I said, I fall victim to that myself. I know I do. Like I said, I was a sociology major, and I did my senior thesis on gun violence in the city of Chicago, with the reason being, you know, if I'm going to be a strong proponent of the Second Amendment, if I want people to have the right to own a gun, if I want people to be able to buy guns and all of that stuff, I should at least have an understanding of the problems that it creates. And I need to understand that to the best of my ability. And that's why I did my thesis on that. And I learned a lot through that process. And it was more obviously it was more social aspect of it. You know, it was focusing on things like familial disruption and racism and things like that. But it allowed me to have a better appreciation for the other side of the argument that maybe didn't always elaborate as much on what I ended up finding with my research, you know. And that's part of it. It's like whenever you approach a conversation like that, you want to present an argument, and obviously we all can't bring out 27 peer-reviewed published papers from journals to support our arguments, but I know, at least for myself, I fall victim to this often, where I neglect to include context. And the other portion of it is oftentimes we both end up getting met with hostility in regards to our opinion, and that kind of comes back to that whole perception and all of that good jazz. It's like, person A says a quote-unquote anti-gun perspective, and they craft their argument decently enough, and then maybe they use a source that a pro-gun person had debunked at some point in time, or had provided a counter-argument to prior to in a long-forgotten conversation. And then another user points that out and is a little snarky about it. And well, what do you do? You take it as a snarky response, and you get that kind of combativeness to it, and then everybody starts throwing out boxes. And like I said, that sucks. It sucks to be beyond that. Recently I had a user who was of a varying opinion on what was going on in Ottawa with the whole trucker thing, and people were calling him an anti-vaxxer and all this shit, and it's like, I sat down and DM'd this guy and had to talk with him, and he's like, no, I'm not anti-vax, it's just I'm worried about the ramifications in terms of civil rights and liberties. And don't take any of this as my opinion. My opinion on the subject is neither here nor there. I think I've made it vocal enough on the forum, but how he presented his argument in DM, it made more sense to me. Because, I looked at the post, and prima facie, it's like, oof, that's a kind of a shitty way to make an argument. But once we actually sat down and were able to kind of hash out what it is he was trying to convey, it's like, okay, so, this guy is more concerned about things like government overreach and, reduction of civil liberties and, like Patriot Act level shit. And, there's definitely going to be people that are saying, that's not going to happen. Why are you worried about that? That's nutty. That's crazy. And you're going to have people that are like, okay, I mean, I guess that's something. And you're going to have people that are like, yeah, that's why I support this. And as a person and as a moderator, it's like I see both sides of the argument here. I think there is merit as far as that, because I think as Americans, we all know what happened after the Patriot Act. Obviously something like that hasn't happened with COVID, but the fear is there in people, and I wouldn't call that an irrational fear. Whenever there's any sort of calamity or catastrophe, there's always going to be the powers in the system that want to take advantage of that for their own gain, and that's definitely something worth being concerned about. But the way that they articulated their argument, for one, didn't really convey that aspect of it very, very well. And two, they got dogpiled for it. And, once again, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, you posted an opinion counter to mine, you must be a troll. You must be bad faith arguing. And it's like, no, this guy's, trying to share a genuine opinion that, if had it been worded better, may have helped bolster the legitimacy of their concerns in regard to the argument. And, the end result for that whole thing is they left the community because they got boxed to hell and back. And it's like, oofta, man. That sucks. That sucks. Because, like I said, I treat this like a family to an extent. You're all kind of like cousins and uncles. And yeah, there's going to be people I butt heads with, but at the end of the day, we've all been in the same boat for a long time, and I don't want to be pushing people out. And like I said, with the way the community reacted to them, it was difficult for me to how do I approach that? How do I approach that without alienating other people? How do I approach that without coming off like an asshole or that I support whatever policy or whatever this? Like, how do I do that? Because once again, whatever I post, people are going to read that and make assumptions. They're going to make assumptions based off their lone life experiences and what they perceive the message I am trying to convey. And that's this whole challenge, right? That's this whole challenge. How do I improve that communication? How do I help people better craft their arguments? How do I help people better communicate to one another so we're not just dogpiling on one another when somebody posts an opinion contrary to that of the majority, because there is a definitive difference between somebody looking to stir the pot and somebody being earnest with sharing their own opinion. And I don't think it's right to be treating people that are in earnest trying to share a valid opinion in terms of concern and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, once again, like bigoted shit and lolly, and no, none of that. But when it comes to, once again, like the topic of civil liberties and removal of rights and things like that, that's a valid concern that a lot of people have, myself included to a limited degree, when it comes to COVID. So, I'm hoping that through this better communication and all of that stuff that people are going to be more willing to try and not just allow their assumptions to take root and control over how they perceive their post and allow themselves to kind of play the devil's advocate when it comes to approaching what it is people are trying to convey. Let's see here. Refresh your thought. Thank you for reminding me. Right now, my way far behind on the chat, by the way, so... All right. You want to be banned, Rocket Man, as the sacrificial lamb? Okay, I'll ban you for like the minimum amount of time. So here is UncleJimmema's power trip. This is me. I'm gonna give you a yeet, and here we go. And we're just gonna say yeet, and bada bing, bada beanus. You banned now. Less of a question and more of a thank you to the Knockout staff for keeping this site alive. Knockout is actually one of the only ways I've been able to digest news and see discussion around the world when it comes. Digest news and see the discussion around it without the issues that come from modern day social media. Hope you have a nice one, UncleJimmema, and same for the rest of the staff. But thank you, Rummy. Yeah, no, actually, honestly, Knockout is my primary source of news. I hate opening up CNN and Fox and any of that shit because there's just so much bias. There is so much bias. It's even, I mean, I've been looking at CNN just to keep tabs on Ukraine stuff, and man, sometimes it's like watching the Young Turks. I just can't stomach the writing sometimes. I am a much more Walter Cronkite, tell me what's going on so I can make my own decision, please. Don't tell me how to think. I hate that. But the mod panel is broken. Oh yeah, picking well people was a kind of a recipe for disaster. I'm trying to think. I think we only did that. We did that when Colonel Buggernuts. Well, Colonel Buggernuts got voted in, but we kind of picked like two other mods based off of popularity, and those two other mods didn't last to New Punch. Do you think you'll ever introduce something like Sentient mods, so someone that can create art but nowhere else? Yeah, no, I mean that's something we've contemplated. I think part of the problem is we're not big enough for something like that to make that necessarily justifiable. So going back to the real early days of Knockout, one of the things we wanted to do, and part of the reason why we made it open source, was we wanted to offer this as a platform for indie game developers, and that's still something we would be interested in doing. And part of that was, offering various levels of that sort of thing, for something simple as just having your own subforum on Knockout to having your own forum that's then linked to Knockout and uses Knockout's core structure for all of the tools and all of that good jazz. And part of that was having, separate moderation for that sort of thing. And I think with the new permission system, that is a possibility. I mean, we can actually functionally do it now. It's just where we're at right now, it isn't necessarily necessary. And to be brutally honest, the vast majority of moderation comes from news and politics. Yeah, the only thing outside of there that regularly gets bans is the TF2 thread. I don't know what it is about that thread, but people just, But yeah, no, I mean it's definitely something that's doable. It's definitely something that we may have to consider at a future time. But at this time, it's not necessarily something that's necessary. Let's see here. Oh yeah, on the 2A. Yeah, no, you're welcome, Rosal. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where, once again, communication, using good explanations, trying to articulate things in a good manner. That's how you change opinions. And believe me when I say I've had my opinion changed from being on Knockout. It can happen. It does work. Do you have a link to the thesis? Yeah. Just shoot me a DM on the forum, and I'll shoot you my fucking 99% draft of it. Can the new moderators in training ban people, or do they have to pass the job on to full mods if they see something? Basically, are the mods with a different title, or actually like KL police support officers, like I joked in the thread? So, technically, the only thing that separates moderator in training and full mods is title. They can ban people right now, but they don't ban people right now. Long story short, they got the training wheels on. They've more or less been instructed not to ban people. What they do is, they look at, right now they're at a phase where they look at reports as they come in, and then they'll post in mod chat whether or not they think it should be banned and why. And then the other mods will chime in and explain our reasoning for or against. And then if it is something determined to be bannable, a regular mod will take care of it. We'll probably do that for another 2 weeks or so, and then and maybe not even that long. It might be a little bit shorter than that, but then they'll be able to start doing bans. I will note, right now, obviously, if something bad happens, yes, they have the authority to ban shit. So if somebody starts posting gore or transphobic shit or whatever, yeah, they are given permission to ban for that. But in general, they're in training wheels mode right now. Thank you, Svenik. I do appreciate the thanks. I really do. All right. You're all my obscure yet cool cousins at this point. Yo, likewise. Let's see. And I'm way behind on chat, guys, so I'm sorry. I'm just trying to see if there's other questions people have asked in there. Roselle, yeah, making a thread on critical thinking and stuff like that. That would be a fun topic to discuss. I think that would be something appropriate for GD. I do think it would be something you definitely want to make sure you craft well to the best of your ability and provide good sources and resources and stuff like that. But I think that's definitely something worth talking about. Making meta threads as we seek. You messed up the name shit. Let's see. It feels like most of the space community has disappeared from Knockout, which is unfortunate. Essentially reduced down to a single, mostly active mega thread. Yeah, no, I mean, when the migration happened from Facepunch to Knockout, we lost a lot of people, and a lot of people just they determined that I've got better things to do, and there's nothing wrong with either one. I mean, it is kind of disappointing. It is kind of sad to see those kinds of communities go to other platforms or leave elsewhere, but it's kind of one of those things where like I said earlier in the stream, we're at a point where we do have a really good opportunity of starting to bring that sort of thing back. Like I said, we do actually for once, or I shouldn't say for once, but we have a good functional forum. We have a lot of good backend features. We got tools that are already in place, and we got good stuff coming along the way. We really are kind of hitting that point where it's like, yeah, this shit works good. Now let's make this shit grow, The Titan 2 private server, oh boy. Yeah, space is pretty cool. I like space. If you feel like there's a certain group is gone, then there's a few options, right? Start posting interesting threads or accept it. Sometimes groups just fall apart. Yeah. Let's see here. The KU merch made by the community. Yeah. No, I mean, I would like to explore that. I would definitely like to explore that. And maybe that might be something we could start looking into more heavily once we start getting the subscriptions and donations going again. My only concern is once again, do we handle it through a third-party platform where, yes, I don't have to physically touch anything, but it's going to cost a lot? Or, do I, buy runs of shirts and hoodies and shit like that and then personally ship them out to keep costs low for you guys? It's just one of those things where we got to kind of figure out how we can do that and be fair to everybody, Let's see here. KO merch should be a bit of a sliding scale on where the money goes. Very spooky about online groups starting to crowd content based on monetization. Well, I will say, if we were to make merch, it would basically just be like a donation with a reward. The money, any money that goes towards merchandise is purely going to go towards upkeep and the general community fund. Like I said, we're not here to make money. I don't do this for money. I wouldn't stress over all of this for money. It would be nice, but that's not why I'm doing it. Oh yeah, no, that was one thing. Going back to the whole magic of Facepunch for me, like what made me want to stay when I first joined was seeing all the cool shit that people were doing, and that was kind of why we wanted to bring in developers and do stuff like that. But it's just the dynamic with that sort of thing is so different now. You have so many different platforms between Discord, Reddit, frickin', Steam, the Steam community with the workshop and all that stuff. Back in the day, if you wanted to get a mod or a skin or a map or whatever, your options were to go to Facepunch's website, go to FPS Banana or another one of those mod websites to find that stuff. Where now it's practically integrated into the games at this point, and it's different. It's all very different, and so trying to find a way to recapture that is difficult, to say the least, and obviously there's no simple solution for it. But how much does KO cost, or do you want to keep that private? I'll say we probably want to keep that private, but its costs are not overbearing. We financially we're fine. It's not the most expensive thing in the world, and like I said, way back in the stream, Northern Lights is working on stuff to make it even less expensive to run. So it's not like there's no fear of the forum shutting down because we don't got money. That it's just not going to happen. I'd shell money out of my pocket to cover all this shit before I'd let it fall because of money issues. I feel like FP really nailed the original gamification of content feel. You got gold stars for making good shit, and the stars showed up in the next to your name. I remember as a kid actually felt pretty indicative of someone's general quality if I saw gold star red cross next to their name. And that's, we wanted to bring some of that stuff back. So, you know, with the gold member thing, obviously, that there are going to be like some perks that we're going to attach to that. You know, adding different community roles like the community contributor. One of the things that's been requested and we want to do is titles. Personally, and this is obviously open for debate. This is not set in stone, but personally, I'd like to have it kind of like on Old Punch, where you got a title for doing something, and on Facepunch it was for doing something stupid most of the time, or it was for doing something really, really cool. And in either instance, I think it kind of helped add to the lore of the forum. You know, I'm not going to name names again, but like, you know, there's users with particular titles and it's like, oh yeah, I know that guy. And it's like, not necessarily a bad thing, you know? And that's definitely stuff that we want to do. And, you know, with the introduction of the new permission system and all of this stuff, we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. All right, where are we at? Yeah, sadly, Nix had to step away. I actually hate that the workshop was created. I understand that energy is convenience, but it just seems like it kills mod communities. I would agree to an extent. I would definitely agree to an extent. You know, one of the things I loved about Facepunch when it came to mods was, like, oftentimes, you know, mod creators were basically showing the progress of their creation. And you know, they could ask people how to do something or how to make something work, and the other people would tell them how, and, you know, you would end up with this thread full of knowledge as far as how to go about doing things before finally the mod was released, and you got this cool thing that was made by somebody that got help from other members of the community. And with the Steam Workshop, you don't really get that. It definitely turned mods into more of a commodity. You know, it definitely turned it into more of a, you know, give me the finished product, I don't care, like, which is a shame. I mean, obviously there are definitely avenues and venues, and even here, you know, on the progress report or the developers stuff, you know, people are still doing that sort of thing, but it's not as well spread as it used to be, and it is kind of a shame. I really do think that's the case. The dragon dildos from Facepunch. Oh my god. And yeah, the Monkey 123 saga, where what did he? Gary said it to what, 5,000 USD or something like that. It's like, oh my god, that was a good time. I can't wait till KO lore is so deep and complex that you can build an entire YouTube channel to explaining the lore. You know, the thing is, we're definitely getting there too. We've definitely had some of our moments. You know, we've definitely had some drama. We've definitely had some cool stuff. There's stuff that folks are remembering. It's getting there. We're building it. So this is a dev related question. I'm not sure of your answer, but is there any possibility of being able to change which login provider you use for account? Short answer, yes. Long answer, not easily, and not yet anyway. So right now, in order to do that, we have to do it through the back end. Basically, I have to, if I remember correct, you have to make an alt account, assign it to the login provider you were using on your old account, and then they can apply a different login method to your original account. Don't quote me on that, though. It's a little complicated, though. Long story short, there's back-end fuckery that we have to do. I hold on a second. Let me check, because I think one of the devs was actually just talking about that earlier. That there are intentions to make the login provider more front end. But like I said, right now it can't be done easily. It's one of those, we can make it possible. It's just probably not going to be for a while. Let's see here. Is there a reason why we're logged out of the forum? Yeah. So I had kind of elaborated on that in a thread in Meta, and once the new permission system's up, it won't do it anymore. But so all of it kind of boils back down to GDPR. As you all know, with GDPR, we're not allowed to retain data if people wish for their data to be removed, which is why, as of now, there's an unfunctional delete your own account button under your user settings. And early on, the problem we had was bad actors, and we're talking about not just like one-off dumb shit stuff, but like people that are intentionally making a dozen troll accounts to keep fucking with people, could essentially GDPR themselves at any given time and completely remove all of their personal information, IP addresses, stuff like that. And as a stopgap to prevent people from just turning and burning their gimmick accounts without leaving a trace, we had it log people out when they were banned. And that way they could not just click that GDPR button, erase their information the moment they got banned, and keep on going from there. Now, with that said, we still remain GDPR compliant. You know, you could still email me or send us a message on multiple different avenues to request an account deletion. So we still remain GDPR compliant. But the thing is, most trolls don't take the time to do that. And so that pretty much allowed us to retain that kind of information from bad actors in order to better sniff them out. Now, mind you, in today's day and age, a lot of people use VPNs and anonymizing software. But the thing is, we have a large enough sample size now to where, you know, even if you're using a VPN, we pretty much know who you are. And we wouldn't have been able to do that if we didn't have that implemented. And that helped us tremendously when it came to developing back-end tools to just outright prevent them from creating accounts in the first place, which has been highly successful. Highly, highly successful. But once the new permission system is live, that won't happen anymore. We have other methods to do that sort of thing. So Nixnax said, I think Waz is going to try to look at it here soon, but we're hoping to have that pushed in the next week or two, and the whack-ass Crystal Prison will be following not long after that. The mod subforum is going to be the test to make sure that everything's working properly and everything like that. And once we've determined that there's no errors, that's when the whack-ass Crystal Prison will be going live. Let's see. Let's see. As I am banned now. Okay, yeah, that was in regards to that stuff. Well, I hope my explanation of it won't do it anymore answered that. Yeah, no, the whack-ass Crystal Prison will be going live, Patterns in Nature. It should be hopefully going live sometime in March. Are we going to be able to view posts in the whack-ass Crystal Prison if we're not banned? Yeah, no, so Reggie kind of right. So, that's kind of one of those things where I see the merit as to why people would want to view them, and I also see the merit as to why we shouldn't let people view them. The thing is, so back on Facepunch, for those of you who aren't familiar, maybe joined after New Punch was live, stuff like that, the refugee camp was only viewable by a banned user who could only see their thread, mods, and gold members. And those three parties could all post in those threads. And what would end up happening is it basically just turned into a gawker's paradise. You know, the gold member community at that time had their own private subforum and would basically use it as a gawker a place to gawk. And the other part of it is oftentimes we're dealing with bans, or I shouldn't say oftentimes, but there are times in dealing with bans where we have to deal with sensitive information. And yes, while we have avenues to communicate that stuff outside of a thread, the whole point is to keep it on the forum. You know what I mean? And so we have to be respectful of people's privacy when it comes to that sort of information. And that's just it. It's like I understand. The other part of it too is like mod accountability. How are you approaching these? How are you treating people? Why did you ban people this way? Why did you unban people for this sort of thing? I know that's information people want to know, and like I say, I understand the merit behind that. It would bolster transparency and offer better communication. However, at least in my own personal opinion, like I said, there's issues of privacy, and there's issues of, once again, gawking and toxicity. I'm not going to name names, but there's definitely users that got banned for certain things, and they get unbanned, and people nag on them for it for ages and ages and ages, and it's like, I don't want that. I don't want people doing that. And that's how the old way of handling things kind of pattered out. I think at least in the immediate future, once it's released, we'll probably keep it private. Depending on how it goes in terms of the kind of information being posted most often, the stuff that we see, and all that sort of jazz, we may make it visible to a limited extent. It's all kind of we'll figure it out as we go along kind of thing. Because I can already tell you I know what doesn't work. But I also know that there are things that could work. It's just we want to make sure we got our ducks in a row before we diverge from at least from our perspective, a safe option. Let's see. But obfuscate. I can't pronounce that word. Obfuscate words. And that's not necessarily a bad idea. That's something, like I said, we can start addressing that once the RC is live for a while. I want to get it up. I want to have it functional. I want to use it. I want to see how it plays out, how well it works out, and all that good jazz, before I start making any big changes to it. You guys probably don't have a lawyer to look at GDPR stuff, but I'm fairly sure there's a way to retain stuff like IP addresses or session data if it's in the public interest. It's been like a year since I looked at the actual legislation. No, there is. Therethere's a way so it's like with Rust and banning people, right? Obviously Rust needs to, or Facepunch needs to retain data in order to actually enforce their bans, because otherwise people could just GDPR and start playing again, right? When this topic had came up, I actually talked to Facepunch's legal team as far as how they handle it, and they have a system that involves hashing user data and assigning it a token, for lack of a better term, that correlates with something on the user's computer or something like that, and that's how they go about doing it. We in terms of how we could do that, it's not so much of a problem of whether or not we can do it legally. It's more of an issue that we didn't have the things to do it to begin with yet. That's really more of the main bump in the road as far as retaining that information in a way that's legal and compliant to GDPR. As I said, that's not so much the case. The whole log you out to do that thing was a stopgap measure, because once again, this whole forum is made by scratch, and every time a tool that may seem obvious is brought up, we have to code that. It has to be written. It has to make sure it doesn't fuck other things up. It has to be double checked. And then it can go onto the forum. And so, long story short, we just didn't have the functionality to do it properly. I mean, it could just as well be someone with a long ban coming back. The point of obfuscation to give yourself a legal out, not necessarily, yeah. Also, pretty big question. Will we be moving away from Discord at some point? I don't really see much of a point to it. I only go on there if I absolutely have to. That is a topic that's been brought up a lot, and when it comes to that, I started to look at how other communities have handled it. The thing is, with Discord, I almost feel like it's a necessary evil because of how it works in terms of how conversations happen on there. I think there's something to be said about how conversations go on Discord. It is definitely a much more fast-paced platform. It's definitely better for a lot of informal stuff, a lot more shit posting. It's just a much more conducive platform for that sort of thing. But at the same time, we don't necessarily want to split the community and having them kind of pick between which platform they really should be focusing on. Personally, I would like the Discord to be really like, oh, here's a thing that you can do if you want. Not you need to be here to be a part of this community, this aspect of the community. And so, like, the way that Facepunch Studios handled it is they basically removed everything about their games and just left it to be kind of like a chat room. And I could see us doing something like that. Pardon me for a second. I need to open my vent. It is frickin' freezing in my basement, and I had closed it so that it wouldn't blow onto the mic, but I am now very cold. If there was a way that we could put, like, the general chat, like a live Discord interactive community chat on the front end of the forum, so that you could, like, you could see on the right side, oh, here's this conversation, this live conversation that multiple people are having here, and I can browse the rest of the forum here. That would be a kind of a reasonable compromise as far as still offering a good fast-paced communication medium without detracting so much from the forum itself. But I know I looked into that, and Discord doesn't make that easy. But in the immediate future, I think it's still worth kind of having, as far as having that kind of fast-paced communication medium. But I definitely want to try and shift more of the like community stuff, community events, topics. I want to kind of push that back more towards the forum instead of just on the Discord. And the other aspect of it is, like, if we're going to have community events, if we're going to be hosting servers and doing that sort of thing, you kind of almost need a Discord, if it's just even just for the voice over IP stuff, I mean, how many people hop on a Discord to play video games with their friends? A lot. I think everybody here does, and so to have a community place to do that, it just makes sense to me. But we can touch on that, because, like I said, I would like to kind of trim it down a bit, kind of help push more of the conversation more towards the forum, and leave the Discord as more of like a fast-paced, fast threads kind of conversation zone. Let's see here. I gotta ask, has there been any plans to add a way to change your username? I use this name pretty much everywhere now, and I'd like to have my KO username changed to match. So in the short term, just shoot me a DM and I'll hit up the maintainers. Nixnax had actually talked about that, or Tetra, at his bit way earlier on in the stream, over 2 hours ago, where he would like to add a change username function so people can do that on their own. The problem is like right now we don't have a way to retain, we don't have something that says formerly known as, you know what I mean? If we change your username, I can't just like click on your profile and see what your old username was. And so we need to have something like that put together before we allow people to change their name at a user level. But it's in the works. I mean, it's literally on Nixnax's list. He stated as such earlier on in the stream. Yeah, no, I know, right? I think a live chat would be kind of fun. It would almost be a bit of a headache to moderate, which is why I would prefer kind of like a Discord integration where we can at least kind of vet people using our own Discord and its bot system that way. But I think it would be kind of nice to have a live chat like that. The World of Pixels event, that was actually a lot of fun. It sucks that we had a couple of shitters come in and fuck it up, but I thought it was really cool. Some of the shit that people draw was really, really neat. I know some folks use bots, but it was really enjoyable to see what the community made from that. I thought that was a lot of fun. All right, let me refresh this thread real quick. Oh, Peachy, we're still live. I mean, we're at the Q&A part. Yeah, it is cold, man. It is cold. 40s is like shorts and t-shirt weather here in Minnesota, so when it's cold, it's fucking cold. Spent like 7 hours covering up a swastika with a rainbow heart. Yo, I know, I saw a lot of stuff. What frustrated me the most was when people would just erase shit, you know? It wasn't so much when they would like draw some bigoted dumb shit. It was the fact that they would erase other people's works. It's like, dude, this guy poured their fucking heart out, and here you are just shitting on him for being, you know, whatever. It just hurts my brain why people want to fuck with people, you know? It's not to say that there aren't times I fuck with people, but if you fuck with me first, that's when I'll fuck with you. I'm not going to go out of my way to fuck with you if you've never done something wrong to me, you know? And honestly, the kind of folks that feel the need to harass others for whatever dumb fucking reason, and that person never did anything to them, they're just sad people. They're just sad people who need to project their own insecurities onto others in order to make themselves feel better. And it's a shame that they won't take the steps to better themselves and just not care what other people do in their own fucking free time. Oh yeah, seeing people come together and fix it and all that stuff. Yeah, no, I mean, once again, that's just a testament to this community keeping it, you know, helping out one another. It's phenomenal that people do that. It really is, and I'm very happy that we have a community that does that. Well, yeah, I mean, so trolling, in terms of trolling, you know, it's kind of one of those things where it's one thing if you're doing it lighthearted as kind of a ribbing where, you know, at the end of the bit, you know, you kind of, hey, it's a joke. You know, you kind of make it obvious that I'm just fucking with you. Hey, no, I'm not here to fuck with you or to make you feel bad or cause you discomfort or whatever. It's another when you're doing it purposefully to like distress people. They're like, why? What did they do to you? They did, you know, they didn't really do anything to you. You know, as I said, if somebody does something to you, that's kind of a different story, at least for me. But I don't see the need to go pissing other people's Cheerios for the sake of riling people up. It's one of those things where I know people find that shit kind of funny, and don't get me wrong, there are individuals that make it kind of funny, but at the same time, you know, if they're not fucking with you, if they're not you know, doing things that are objectively wrong, why are you doing it? I could list examples, but I think most of you guys probably have a general idea what I'm talking about in terms of that sort of thing. It's one of those things where it's like, people like doing different shit. People enjoy things that you don't enjoy, And the way that I look at it, if it's not causing you harm, if it's not causing other people harm, if it's not doing that shit, then why care? Why bother? Why fuck with people? Let them live their lives. Let them do whatever the fuck they want. If they fuck with you, sure. But don't go fucking with them for no reason other than to make yourself feel better. Oh, the old ventriloquist spam days, yeah. Well, it's like, I remember I have a friend of mine who's a streamer, and she's a relatively popular streamer, and like, we were playing the forest, and some rando joined the game and just started dropping the N-bomb. That's not really necessarily funny. That's really only funny to people that are racist. You know, there's really nothing funny about them. All right. Well, we've been doing this for about 3 hours. I will note, so so mundane and not bad. Yes, I just look like a normal guy with a weird Minnesotan accent and mutton chops. So I will be uploading this onto my YouTube, and I'll try to break it up so that you don't have to sit for 3 hours to get every little bit. I don't know when that'll be going up. I'll probably try and do it sometime tomorrow. But let's do last call here, guys. If anybody has any other questions, go ahead, post them in the thread. Go ahead and post them in chat. More than happy to answer stuff like this. And I want to try to do stuff like this a little bit more often. Maybe not once a month or something like that, but I think it's good to be able to convey this on a platform where I can do so where feel I'm really good at it. Put me in the thumbnail. Put me in the thumbnail. Put me in the thumbnail. Now what I need to do is actually I gotta find the punchy transparency. That's why I used this one, because I couldn't find it, so I used this one instead. Which is still fine. It's cool. But I don't remember what I did with the original transparency. My only question is, do you have a barber or do you maintain that facial hair yourself? A little bit of both. I usually try to get a haircut about once every 6 weeks. And usually when I get my haircut, I'll have my barber clean it up and make it look real nice. But usually at least once a week, I dedicate it as a day to sit in front of a mirror and clean up the beard. And then usually daily, I just, apply conditioner and stuff to it just so that it's not so itchy. Who's your favorite shit poster and why is it Emily Vasquez? Well, as far as a favorite shit poster, I don't really have one. I don't know. So I know I've said where the community's not that big. Well, that's kind of a misnomer, With Facepunch, we had 15,000 people active at any given moment. We don't have that much, but we do still have a reasonable amount of users. And believe me when I say, pretty much every day I see a username I've never seen before. And when I see that they registered in 2019, I go, okay, how did I never see this before? No questions. Just a huge shout out to y'all keeping this community running. After 16 years of reading Facepunch and KO, I'd hate to have to change my daily routine. Yo, I know the feel. With the exception of my time in the military, I pretty much visited Facepunch and Knockout every single day. And obviously, as a community manager, I do. It's a pretty big part of my life in terms of just what I do every day. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't. Where did all those KO logos variants come from? Was there a contest some time ago? Yeah. Why can't I remember his name right now? There's a user who made the original Punchy logo. And I wish I could remember his name, because he deserves all the credit. He made Punchy perfect. But when we I think it was right after the Facepunch forums closed down. We held events where you could design multiple punchies, and then like in the top corner here, I don't know why it doesn't say it right now, but where it'll say like the subtext, people could enter in whatever subtext they want. So like if you ever see that's a genuine human penis, that's my contribution to that. I want to do stuff like that again. I don't know if you were here when I brought it up, but earlier on in the Q&A I mentioned about holding a community event to make more promotional materials, for lack of a better word. I know like one of the things I want to do is make a shitty commercial in Source Filmmaker using a punchy rigged model, but I don't know how to model. I can animate reasonably, and if you ever have been on my YouTube channel, you can see some of my shitty works that somehow got over 50,000 views. But I think it would be kind of a fun way to advertise it on like Twitch or YouTube or something like that, because you can do that for pretty cheap. But even just having different variants of Naki and stuff like that would be really cool. And I know somebody had mentioned earlier in the Q&A about like having emotes and stuff like that, and whether or not we want to like pull old Facepunch emotes or make community ones. And I would lean heavily towards doing community ones, and even having them like variants of Punchy. That'd be fun. This is all stuff that we would like to do, and as I've reiterated now a couple of times, I think we're finally reaching a point where we can start to explore that sort of stuff and really start bringing in that more personal feel and some of that old school forum stuff like we used to have. Let's see here. Cuphead style platformer with Punchy. Yo, we just take the old Face Wound source code, make the old Face Wound source code and reskin it as the Punchy's Great Adventure, that's the Knockout community video game. We'll give that a funny too. I remember playing Face Wound a bit too. I didn't learn about Face Wound actually until like a reasonable amount of time after being on the forum. Yeah, no, I know there's a KO YouTube channel. I just have no idea what the login details are either. And the guy who made it doesn't remember it either. What? Let me rephrase that. I know there's a way we can get it, but we haven't had a reason to use it. And my intention was, when we were to use it, would be to one, host like ads to promote the forum, but two, to host VODs of the community events and stuff like that, which I suppose this would fall under that banner, but for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to do it on my YouTube for now. I can't ever log out. I'm glad to be a part of this place. Thank you to the mod and dev team and everyone who keeps posting. Keep this place going. I love how open this feels for the first live stream. I'm optimistic about the future. We're all just here to laugh and have a good time and collaborate and cool shit. Hell yeah. And once again, that's why I want to do this more often. And it all boils back to that big section about communication and perception and all that stuff. I mean, I think the more that we can communicate with each other in whatever way, it just brings us that much closer together as a community. I mean, once again, hey, now you know who UncleJimmema is, the personish kind of, for those of you that have sat through the stream and those of you that are watching the recording, like, hey, hi, I'm UncleJimmema. How you doing? Yeah. I'm really happy we did this today too. I remember too, like I know in the original thread I said we were going to do it in Discord, and I was like so worried that I was going to fuck something up or do something that caused a whole lot of drama and at least so far my worries have been unfound. But there's always, going back to that question where somebody asked if we were apprehensive about posting in a thread, it's like, oof, anytime you do something, there's always a bit of apprehension, and but I'm glad we did this. I'm really, really happy we did this. I always picture people as your avatars, so when I see them for real, it's always a mindfuck. Yeah, I know the feel, dude. I 100% know the feel. It's kind of one of those things where well, for one, I've rarely, if ever, changed my avatar. I think the only time I changed my avatar was when I got gold on Facepunch because it allowed me to have animated avatars, and so I made it an animated avatar for a while. But this avatar, I've literally had, at least in some iteration, since my very first day on Facepunch. So, it's I mean, yeah, it's a face to fucking recognize. And I mean, I vaguely look like that. If I'm clean shaven, I kind of look like that. But yeah, no, it's always kind of fun too. Like, what was it? Emily Vasquez always has like a variant of what is it? And like, I shouldn't have name dropped, but I'm sure nobody's gonna be offended about that. But yeah, I mean, it's like you see that you see the avatar and you recognize it. Not so much the username, you know. It's interesting, and that's one thing I've always liked about the classic forums over Reddit or some of the more modern options is this has that personal feel to it. So once again, even though you don't know who I am, I can look at a user and look at that avatar and go, I know that avatar, I know that username, I know that person. You have a proverbial face to attach to a name with this style of forum, and you don't really get that on Reddit. And I mean, you kind of do with Discord, but yeah, that's what I mean. I can't remember his knockout name off the top of my head. I'm sure if I was to ping the maintainers in mod chat, they'd chime up. Yeah, well, and there are people that like to go through avatars, but they always keep them relative. You know what I mean? They always kind of keep them to, at the very least, be somewhat recognizable. Pineapple on pizza? I mean, I'll eat it. It's fine. I'm not a very picky eater. I mean, if you've ever been in the military and eaten lots and lots and lots of MREs for very long, prolonged periods of time, you reach a certain point where you don't care. About the only thing I don't like eating is blue cheese. I don't like eating blue cheese straight. I'll eat it with burgers and shit like that, but straight I won't eat it. Mexican rice pretty good. My favorite was the chili mac. I think that was everybody's favorite though. Oh, almost drank all my Munich Gold. And yeah, I was going to say, I mean, mine was a variance. There was a time, so back on Facepunch, I would change my avatar for like holidays and stuff like that, but it would be a variation of my avatar. And then I think it was in the early 2010s, somebody had made a PNG version of it just so that I didn't have to keep working with this horribly compressed, tiny JPEG that I, ripped off of Google in 2005. And I just never bothered to make the variations. Oh, pretty much. You've basically summarized my real life in a nutshell. Here in Minnesota, we have a saying. You're a sled neck. You ride on the. Literally, where I live, people drive snowmobiles down the street, and it's not like I'm in the boonies. I am in a suburb of St. Paul. Yeah. Lots of flannel, lots of lumberjack shit. We got Paul Bunyan statues all over the fucking place. Yeah, you pretty much summed it up pretty well. Oh yeah, the long neck Kermit avatars. Yes. Okay. What time is it here? Alrighty, folks. So we've been at it for about 3.5 hours. This is gonna be fun cutting it up. Final call. We'll keep this under. We got 5 minutes to ask whatever questions you want to ask. I will answer all of them for however long it takes, but anything submitted after, I'm sorry. You missed your chance. You blew it. Favorite season of Fargo? Third season with Ewan McGregor. That was my favorite season. Sorry for the joke that had to get blocked by the bot. I literally have the auto mod at like maximum settings because I was very concerned that we were just gonna get flooded with hate rage shit or something like that. Oh, I know one thing I do want to check right now personally. This has been a subject. Yeah, Postal's ass. They still have that on the Facepunch Discord too, which is just funny. You literally have an entire generation that has no idea why that ass is there. I find that hilarious. I just wanted to see if there was any updates going on with this. Well, that's good. Is he gonna like meet him in person? That'd be like fucking baller if Ukrainian's president did that. That's like, you know, massive cojones right there. Silverman, I can't words today, guys. I'm sorry. I'm running off of like 5 hours of sleep, Adderall, and 2 energy drinks. I am a functional human being. And I'll just double check news. Yeah, check politics. See if war were declared. War were declared. Now, I've legitimately been watching that very closely. Personally, I wish the United States would put boots on the ground. Not to say I don't know why it's a bad idea. I fully understand it, but I don't trust Putin for anything. I don't think any of us do. And it's frustrating that we allowed them to get Crimea to begin with. I know that whole USA World Police thing, I'm not saying we should do that, but the fact that they were able to do it and basically have barely any repercussions from the global community is bad. Thoughts on Megathreads versus non-Megathreads? It's somewhat dependent on the context. So, obviously, for really big pertinent events, I feel they're a necessity. You know, with something like Ukraine or like a presidential election or something like that, so much happens in such a little amount of time in terms of news, in terms of updates and stuff like that. It just makes more sense to keep it in one place. Other things, it kind of it ends up acting in lieu of a subforum, and at this stage of the game, it's kind of a necessity. You know, obviously, at one point in time, Facepunch had its own separate Team Fortress 2 subforum, and it had a big community behind it, where now Knockout has one Megathread. And it's just a simple fact of the matter is there's no longer justification for it to have its own subforum. You kind of have to have a Megathread if you want to try to keep something cohesive. You know, I think there's always going to be a necessity to some degree. I definitely know that for certain stuff it's not ideal, especially because, yeah, those tend to roll quickly and certain bits of information and stuff kind of proverbially get lost in comparison to making individual threads or something like that. But, you know, until we have a topic or something that would justify another sub-forum for that topic, I think it makes it difficult to avoid making a Megathread on that. Can we get a Megathread tag we can add? Yeah. I mean, hell, I can just add that right now. Well, let me talk to the mod team and stuff before I do that. Speaking on that, so just so you guys know, even though I'm the community manager, Ice Cold's the owner, we do try to generally run a pretty flat hierarchy. You know, when I want something done, my word is not the end all be all. Are there times I have to put my foot down? Yes, but I don't do that often. I legitimately try not to do that. Oftentimes, where I'm doing it, it's because the mod team is split on a particular topic or issue. For the most part, we try to work as a team, because obviously my opinions on things are not universal. Their opinions on things are not universal. What I think can work might be a really stupid idea, and I want people to tell me that, and I want each other to tell each other that, so that when we do eventually make a decision on something, we have all the cards on the table, and we're not just jumping into something because, oh, yep, we're going to do that. That's the way we're doing it. That's it now. That's how we're doing it. Obviously, we've done that in the past, and all that does is create points of contention and disruption. We do definitively try and keep it as flat as possible, so as to not have this hidden hierarchy like Facepunch did. It's weird having watched the last year in Kiev, the entire pandemic unfold, and now Ukraine again. It feels like you are going through it with others. It does. I like that, and that's one great thing about Knockout is we have people from all over the world, and we have people with all sorts of different takes and personal experiences and viewpoints on it. It was like, well, when George Floyd happened, that was proverbially in my backyard. I was taking pictures. I was going to the protests. I was taking pictures. I got caught up in some pretty bad shit, and I was able to document that and share that with the community. That's fucking cool. The fact that I'm able to do that is awesome, and it's, in my opinion, almost a more conducive way to learn about these sorts of things. I know we have a member who lives in Ukraine and is living this right now, and to be able to see what they're saying on the matter is very insightful. I think that is just phenomenal. It's phenomenal. You should be able to embed subforms and post subforms all the way down. I had made a harebrained thread about bundling when meta was new, and I couldn't explain it adequately what I meant, but it was sort of a fracture of Megathreads. I think I kind of know what you're talking about. So, and this is, once again, not saying this is going to happen. One of the things we had contemplated was almost kind of like how Discord handles it, where you can kind of start a little separate subtopic within a thread so that a side conversation could still occur without necessarily detracting from the main thread. I don't know how well that could be implemented. I think there's merit to it. I think that with property community input, we could do something like that. But I mean, at least in the short term, it would definitely be a back burner. it would definitely be a back burner. Oh gosh, what was that? Somebody was. I'm sorry that I don't know why I just remembered this, but where is that thread? So we were talking about like community stuff. Somebody had made a thread on the Photoshop contest. Well, not so much contest, but photoshopping Ian McCullum with the fucking railgun or the Gauss rifle into various scenes. I love that people do that. I mean, shit, that's how memes happen, man. Facepunch was the birthplace of Hide the Pain Herald, more or less, because of something like that. That's some lore that Facepunch got out of that sort of thing. Yeah, we'll allow the subway hentai edits. Why not? The in-group memes generated by our community are always fun. Like tanks are 30 minutes away from Kiev. Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. It's the whole Ukraine thing is just. I am definitively intrigued, for lack of a better term. Fast Threads page 2 is where it's at. Alrighty, guys. Well, we're past that 5 minutes mark. I will offer one more brief moment of reprieve to ask a question or two, and then I'm gonna call it. I gotta get some food. I gotta get the VOD downloaded and edited, and get the timestamps in there so people can jump to shit and not necessarily have to listen to me ramble about guns. And yeah. You've been streaming long enough to have him get unbanned. Oh yeah. Thanks for everything in the crew. A more stream like this would be cool. Yeah, and thank you, Ice Cold, for all that you've done for us, man. This would not exist, period, if it wasn't for you, Ice Cold. And yes, I do want to do this more often. I think it's very conducive, very, very conducive to all parties involved when it comes to the forum. So thank you, everybody, for joining me this evening. Like I said, I'm gonna, once I get off stream, I get some dinner, I'll download the video, and I'm gonna try and get it up. I might work on it tonight. It depends on what my friends are doing. Otherwise, I'll try to get it up tomorrow for the folks that missed it. And I'll try and figure out a time when we can do it again. It probably won't be till summer, just for my own sake. I've got once March hits, my job becomes very, very intensive, so I won't really have the free time to do it. But thanks again, everybody. Thank you all for listening in, for joining the stream, and wish you well chopping firewood. Thank you. Thank you all for joining me today, and we'll catch you on the next one. And just remember, when you see me say something stupid, remember this face. This stupid mutton-chopped Minnesotan lumberjack face. Alrighty, guys. Take care, and I'll see ya on the forum.